Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Saturday night if you guys were at the game or were up north. Hope you guys are finding a way to stay warm, but you were able to witness Notre Dame pull off a pretty big win, 49-10 over the Navy Midshipmen. You guys are here for the Irish Breakdown post-game show. Now, we're going to break this whole thing down. We're talking big picture, offense, defense. We're going to answer super chats at the end. You guys know how we get down on the post-game show. But, gentlemen, after another crazy weekend of college football, Notre Dame pulled off another double-digit win. Add that to the tally, and they're now 7-game win streak since starting the season 0-2. And this was a dominant win in a lot of different ways, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you guys. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty and start talking offense and defense specifically, big picture here, fellas. How are we feeling? Brian, I'll kick it to you first. How are we feeling after this 39-point win?
Well, I'm so upset with Chris Ash. I just want to complain about Chris Ash for a while. I don't know why, but I just feel like I should. It just feels like it's supposed to be part of what I'm supposed to do. No, in all seriousness, guys, this was a tremendous performance from the offense and defense. It really was. This is a big win. This is a good Navy team. It is. They're 7-1. It's not a great Navy team. It's a good Navy team. Even without Blake Horvath, that hurt. He's a heck of a player. Kid that replaced him rushed for 100 yards in the first half. You know what I mean? I've obviously had that couple big scrambles, but guys, I liked what I saw from this team. They answered. They get to stop early. You score. You get another. Navy go. You get another. Navy ties it up 7-7. Your offense answers. You get a big stop. Your offense answers again. And it was great to see this team really come out and play complementary football in the first half of this game. And we've talked about this. Navy is a very big halftime adjustment team. And to watch the Notre Dame coaching staff on both sides of the ball come out, and they're the ones that made the better second half adjustments. The ability of the team to bounce back, the leadership that had to be on display from a coach and a player standpoint to bounce back after last week's game, to go out there and thrive in all facets of the game. And to just be prepared to come out and just whoop this football team, guys, was a great answer. And when you watch college football today and you watch teams get upset and teams barely win, and then you watch Notre Dame come out against a 7-1 opponent and just dominate really from start to finish, outside of a couple big plays, from Navy's offense, they didn't really do a whole lot in this game. I mean, it really was a dominant all-around performance for Notre Dame overall. I mean, there's some things that, obviously O-line, run blocking we'll get into and some of that stuff. And there's always things you can always nitpick and get better. But, guys, this was an outstanding victory for Notre Dame. And just we asked this question, Sean, and I don't know if you guys talked about this on your show, but we asked this question. After the way this team came out emotionally last week and focus last week, how are they going to come out this week? How are they going to respond? What would the challenge be this week? And this team came out focused, disciplined, locked in, despite bad weather, and just took the fight to Navy in every phase of the game. And I was very thrilled to see that. And I mean, even coaching-wise, a lot of times you'll see this team, they'll want to leave guys in a little longer to put points on the board. They got Kenny multiple, he got him a series with the first team offense. They got the backup receivers, a couple series with the first team offense. The young defensive players got a lot of snaps. So not only was it a big win, but you were able to limit your snaps for your starters in this game too. So just all around, fellas, I don't know how I mean, gosh, always things as a coach, there's always things you can get better at. But, man, what a heck of a performance from this football team. And just came out early and just poised and just took it right to Navy. Loved it. Super fired up about this win.
Mr. Sean Davis, how are we feeling tonight, man?
Feeling great. It's always great when you can end a big-time win with the snow falling in Notre Dame Stadium. It's just beautiful theater, just absolutely amazing theater. And to be honest, with the visitors, they had some big visitors in, Matt Sieg, Van Layton. Then you had Caden Henderson, the number 2 linebacker. So you had those guys in, and your defense, let's be honest, they rushed the ball 46 times, I believe. but they only had 222 yards total offense. Notre Dame rushed for more yards than Navy gained totally. And they held this Navy offense under 5 yards a pop on the ground. That's including the big runs by the quarterback in the first half. So we'll get to the defensive side of the ball and we'll break down the offensive side of the ball. But just big picture, this is beautiful going into next week. I was literally, the only thing I was worried about is that this team, and we talked about it last week on the post-game show, is this team seeing the finish line, right? Because you can see the finish line, but not finish correctly. And I was just wondering if this team, after this long season, was kind of looking at the finish line and saying, man, we're almost where we wanted to be despite the slow start. And when you get a performance like this, it shows that the coaching staff and the players have an ability to take accountability, recognize, put in the work, and correct the things. Because honestly, if they had executed, last week would have looked similar to tonight and probably even worse.
Way worse.
If they had just simply executed. So, we jumped out the window.
Sean, like just been as focused as they were today. 100%.
Yeah. And so just from the start, I think it was even just watching that first drive, right? They get backed up, they're pinned by Navy, and then all of a sudden it's almost like they set that their third down play up. Like they just baited them into just being uber aggressive. And then they just released Jeremiah and pop them. And then once they got down, with more room, Navy just had, it was like, it was over. I felt bad. I kept looking at the Navy head coach on the sideline. And you could just tell. Sometimes it looked like he had a headache at one point in the third quarter. He just put his head down and kind of grimaced. But I really think he was just kind of praying, like, please let this clock like run a double time. Like, just get this over. It was really all around. If you wanted everybody to get playing time, everyone to pretty much play well, players show up making plays offensively and defensively, come out of this game healthy. To come out of a battle with Navy healthy, that's another thing. And then, like Brian pointed out, you get your quarterback in. Of course, Jabron Payne robbed him of his first touchdown in Notre Dame Stadium. I'm sure would have been special for the kid. But, you just sit back and you say, man, these kids, everybody looked good. Everybody that took the field pretty much looked good. Jay Nutt, he had a fantastic game. You needed this type of win. And now you feel much better with their focus. That's the word, Brian. Their focus going into that 12 o'clock kick. You feel like, okay, these guys are going to be ready to take the field and go up against a Pitt team that now is probably going to be a good look on that resume after what's transpired this weekend in college football, which bodes well. Now, can Notre Dame, we know they control their own destiny as far as getting into the college football playoff. But do they control their own destiny to get a home playoff game once again? So that's going to be interesting coming down the stretch in these last two games.
Gentlemen, I think this is one of the more, probably one of the cleanest football games I've seen Notre Dame play in a really, really long time. A really long time. No penalties today. None. Not one penalty was called.
Not been an ACC crew.
I didn't recognize them, so maybe not. Maybe not, but no penalties tonight for Notre Dame. That's huge, playing clean football. We also talked about how they have to win situational football. The defense held Navy at 3 of 11 on third down. Notre Dame's offense was 7 of 10 on third down and 2 of 2 on fourth down. It's fantastic.
And one of those failed third downs was with the backup offense.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame scoring drive. They scored a touchdown on every drive of the game except for the second drive and then the kneel downs to end both halves. That was it. That was everything that we wanted to see from the offense. And then defensively, I know we'll talk more in detail, but I am beyond impressed with what they did tonight. Mm-hmm. I really am. I mean, you held a really good Navy offense scoreless in 3 of the 4 quarters that you played.
Mm-hmm.
That is really, really impressive. Notre Dame averaged 8.8 yards per play, held Navy to 4.1 yards per play. Woodson had a good game statistically. Went for a $101 on the ground, 23 attempts, 1 touchdown. Outside of that, Teska had 5 for 20. Heidenreich had 1 for 15, 2 catches for 20 yards. That was it. I will say I think that Heidenreich would have had more production in the receiving game if Blake Horvath was playing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one unfortunate side. And I think where Notre Dame's defense was, I guess you could say, underperforming early is you could tell that they had prepared for Blake Horvath and the type of offense they were expecting to see all week. And then an hour before kickoff, Horvath gets ruled out. Hats off to the defense for making those adjustments. Offense was extremely efficient. They were able to combine their big play offense with, sustaining long, methodical drives. I mean, for all of their big play drives, 1 for 34, 4 for 65. They also went 9 for 71, 7 for 94, 7 for 68, 9 for 93 with the backups in. I mean, that's really impressive. And then, as if it needed to be said anymore, the 2 best players in college football both were number 4. One of them's in Columbus and the other one's in South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah, and they're both named Jeremiah.
And they're both named Jeremiah, one with a Y, one with an I. I mean, that touchdown run was nuts. I just got to say that before we take a deep dive analytically. But, gentlemen, this was a fun game. This was very much needed. Very much needed. And Ange said it best.
7 for 7 on PATs.
Yep.
But in typical Notre Dame fashion, they couldn't just enjoy a good special teams game. We had to get a shanked punt from James Rendell, who's been great all year. I want to posit a theory, guys, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I feel that Brian Newberry's done a really nice job at Navy. I feel like he coached and made decisions today like a coach who knew that they weren't going to win today, and he wanted to protect his team for the stretch run that they got coming down because they still very much are in the AAC hunt. Look, I just feel like if he was at all able to go, I feel like if this is a game you felt you could win, you're playing Blake Horvath. And just some of the decisions they made to kind of punt and not go for things, you just felt like he knew we don't really have much of a shot. We're going to give it our best shot early. And you just kind of got the sense that he didn't think they had a shot in this football game, which says a lot about what he saw when he popped in the film this week. Not that he didn't think they were going to try. Don't get me wrong, guys. Not that like he didn't coach to try to win. I'm not saying that at all. I think they came out early and said, we're going to give it our best shot. That's why the defensive game plan was the way it was. It was aggressive. They tried to come at Notre Dame, force mistakes. But when he realized, I think he knew it was going to be tough to win, so he doesn't play Horvath. And then the way that Notre Dame came out of the gate, I think he kind of knew, especially in that third quarter, like, yeah, guys, this one's not. We don't have a shot here, which is also why I think he went for it on 4th down so early. Like, if we don't take a shot here, we're done. And then that's when it, didn't get it, and that's when Notre Dame really steamrolled them. But I think that says a lot about, there's a lot of crying this past week from people, about why Notre Dame is 10th. And you just hear these things from football people like Greg McElroy and other people like that they're like, I think it was Reese Davis even said it, who I don't consider a football guy. It's like, hey, guys, this is one of the 5 best teams in college football. I know their record doesn't warrant them being in the top 5. And they don't belong in the top 5, even though some of the computer models have them in there. But people that know football watch this team and say, if they're clicking, you don't have a chance. And unless you're, playing football in Columbus, Ohio, maybe Bloomington, maybe Tuscaloosa, maybe Athens, you don't have a chance if this team is cooking. And I think Brian Newberry realized pretty early on that we don't have much of a chance in this football game. And like, even in the series where Notre Dame didn't score, I mean, that wasn't even about Navy. That was more about, you made a mistake. You had a wide open wide receiver you could have hit. I mean, there was nothing that Navy could do to stop Notre Dame tonight. And there was nothing they could do to get anything really sustained on the other side of the ball. It was a game where Notre Dame just came out locked in, focused, and just really took the fight to them. And I think that Brian Newberry kind of knew that this was going to be a tough win anyway, and then knew pretty early on that they weren't going to win today. I don't know. That might be stretching a little bit, but that's just kind of the impression I got just with them not playing Horvath and some of the different things. I just felt like he knew, like, if Notre Dame comes out tonight, we aren't going to really have a chance to be in this football game.
Yeah, I don't think you're far off on that at all. I mean, you go and you look at, even outside of the Horvath decision, man, they put in Gutierrez relatively early. Like, Woodson was still effective on the ground. They pulled Teska pretty early. Alex Teska had 5 carries. And it's not like they were airing it out. Like, it's not like they stopped running to try to get back in the game, allowing Woodson to throw the ball at all. It was pretty evident. Because for all intents and purposes, this game doesn't really mean a whole lot for Navy in terms of like the rest of their season outlook. Because they can still win their conference. There's, depending on what happens with the G5, and if this past weekend was any inclination, I don't know if any G5, Brian, you were texting me about that. Don't know if any Group of 5 team wants the actual bid. So there's an outside chance it could still be Navy with 2 losses if they win out. But man, I got that impression tonight as well. And honestly, hats off to Notre Dame on the flip side of that for not pulling a Kelly and just winning 28-7. Because with how Navy ended up calling this game, they very well could have.
Yeah, both of you guys made great points. The Newberry point you made, Brian, is very interesting. It goes to what I was saying. I think he, along with other teams, and this is the difference with this 2025 version of Notre Dame. Notre Dame, we've seen Notre Dame teams that have been physical. We've seen Notre Dame teams with good defenses. We've seen Notre Dame teams that are well coached. But it's been a while. I think the stat, his pass per play is talking about CJ Carr is the most since 1999 with Jarius Jackson. That stat is absolutely amazing.
What was it?
I think his yards per pass is like 14.6. And that's the biggest since 1999 with Jarius Jackson was right at 15.
Against Navy?
If I'm not mistaken, that's just period. I have to go back and look at the stat. It wasn't just a Navy stat. I think it was for a season with 50 or more attempts to this point in the season. And I was like, I thought it would have been at least Paulson or maybe, but I was like, wow, that's an interesting stat, 1999. But it just shows you, and I think we saw tonight, regardless of whether or not you believe what Marcus Freeman was saying, when you watch both of these quarterbacks operate, we've seen big picture, big sample of CJ. But even in the small sample of Kenny, like, he's not rattled. Like, they both know the offense. I just think the quarterback decision that was made 3 seasons ago by Marcus Freeman that is now paying dividends for Notre Dame is why Coach Newberry felt the way he felt. Because Navy teams are used to coming into games knowing they have to shut down the run. And the passing game for Notre Dame is really not as explosive. So they can get away with it. They can get away with it. And they can stay close. And I think the angst he had about this matchup, Brian, is that he knew this is our only bet to gamble and shut down the run and hope that they're off a little bit like they were against Boston College. And we're a little bit better offensively than Boston College. So maybe we can hang around. And then he realized, well, they're a totally different team tonight than they were last week. And at that point, but I think that's pretty much most defensive coordinators until you probably get into like the semifinals of the college. They won't see many teams that can just line up and cover you and shut the run down. They won't see too many teams. Teams are going to have to make a decision. And when you make that decision, this team can hurt you depending upon how you choose to defend them. They can seriously hurt you, not grind it out 4 yards here. No, they can take it to the house through the air or on the ground in a blink of an eye. And that is the difference, not just for Navy and Coach Newberry. That is the difference for all of these teams and all of these defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators that are facing Notre Dame, especially as the defense gets better. It really is becoming a dilemma. And it's almost like we sit back and say to ourselves, all right, let's see how they're going to defend Notre Dame. Is that like, are they going to take away the run? Are they going to keep the safeties back and make CJ beat them?
It's all around though, Sean. When you look at the how, because it's the defense too. Because I mean, for the last month they've been cooking, and it's just this team when they like we said, guys, when this team is really playing well, you really don't have much of a chance to win them. Let's just real quick before we move on to the offense, guys. I did want to kind of point to. Just a little quick thoughts on sort of how this game influences the playoff rankings. Obviously, we'll have a show on Tuesday night where we'll break all that down. But they needed a game like this. They needed a statement game, where you can kind of put last week in the rearview mirror. I think Navy is a team that this committee has clearly respected in the past. They'll respect that this is a 7-2 football team now that's got some good wins on the season. I think when you look at this performance, obviously with BYU getting smacked today, with the two ACC teams, Louisville and Virginia, who kept running their mouth all week, those three fan bases, not so much Virginia. I didn't really see much from Virginia fans. I think they're just kind of happy to be here. I did see a lot of Louisville fans and a lot of BYU fans running their mouths this week, so they can kind of shut their pie holes now for the next week. But they needed this kind of statement game. And I also think they needed this kind of momentum on both sides of the ball going into next week's game against Pitt. I think that was very important for Notre Dame to make that statement nationally, but then also make a statement to themselves, because what Marcus Freeman is going to be able to say to his football team is, if we are focused, and this is what I'm talking about, fellas. This isn't about the option. This is about Navy. This is about Notre Dame. And when we play Notre Dame football, this is what it can look like against everybody we play the rest of the regular season. And I think that was a statement that they made to the nation, that they made to the committee, and more importantly, I think it's a statement they made to themselves. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'll do you one even better here, Brian. Honestly, I know we're talking a lot about next week and what this game is going to mean next week. I am not worried in the slightest about this team being focused and rising to the challenge next week. I know that sounds crazy because Pitt is their last ranked opponent. I'm more interested to see what is the level of maturation of this team and the level of focus with this team going into Syracuse for Senior Day. That's when you have all the distractions. You have Senior Day in South Bend. It's your final home game. You're rolling. You're playing a team that will probably be 3-7 at that point in time. What's your level of focus for that team? Because are we going to see the focused version? Are we going to see the focused version of this team that we saw tonight, that we saw against USC at times, that we saw against Arkansas? Or are we going to see the Boise State version of this team and the Boston College version of this team, or the first half against Pitt version of this team? And that's what I'm more looking forward to. But this is such a strong foundation that it gives me a lot of confidence moving forward to now. I feel like after this performance, I have more of an idea of what to expect. I don't know how you guys felt, but going into every single game, really the last 4 games, has been like, well, if they play up to their standard, then they could win by 30. If not, it could look like Boston College and Boise State. And I guess we'll just find out together as it unfolds. Tonight was a big performance. What do you think about that, Sean?
Let me tell you something. It is one of those things where everything that you said you wanted to see, you got a piece of it. They came out and established Malachi Fields. Like, dude, he's a mismatch. It's one thing to know a team is better than you and they have mismatches. It's another thing when they come out and literally just go right at the mismatches. They just accentuate, yes, he's better. We're better right here. We're better over there. And we're going to use all of these different facets. They didn't do. Eli Raridan didn't do anything in the passing game today. It's like, okay, we'll say to stash that away. We established that the last 2 games. We'll stash that away for Pitt. I mean, that is just the wealth of weapons. Say it again. No,
I
that's
said
just
they kind of needed to keep him in too because of how much pressure Navy was bringing. Just kind of just how the game played out.
Just the wealth of weapons, right? But you just love the things that we wanted to see that we've been saying, man, they need to do this. They did those things tonight, right? And that does give confidence, Trev. That gives a lot of confidence. Brian pointed out the only reason they got stopped on one drive is because CJ just, he looked big. He went top down in his read, and Jordan Faison was coming wide open over the middle. He could have just taken that pass for a nice little 8 to 10 yard gain and kept moving the ball down the field, and they probably score. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Trev. I think the confidence going into this game for them, and it was one of those games, you know how you have one of those games where it galvanizes the team as well because they get to see all of their guys making plays and they're like jumping up and down and dancing with each other. And it's like
kind of what I was saying,
right there.
like meaning earlier, Sean. Like, guys, when we play our game, this is what we're capable of. I'm not quite ready to be like they're going to steamroll the next 3 opponents. I'm going to pull a Trevor, right? Trevor's replacing me tonight. I'm replacing Trevor tonight. Tonight was awesome. I'm not ready to say, okay, this is the new normal for them. I still need to see some consistency from this football team that they can match this week after week after week. I'm not as worried about it next week. It'll more so be the 2 after that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm not at
yeah.
that high level of confidence.
Yeah.
I have no concern over their level of focus for Pitt. It's Syracuse. That's going to be the one. That's for sure. But Notre Dame did cover tonight. And that is another important thing about that. I think they were set at 27.5 on FanDuel. Do you guys remember? Is that what that was?
It ended at 27.5. And I think that Jeremiah hit the under on his total, didn't he?
Yeah, 106.5.
Yeah.
He hit his under. Jadarian Price's over-under was set at 76.5. So, yeah.
Well, they got screwed because, they basically pulled him at the end of the third quarter. And Jeremiah had 94 yards at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
But can't complain too much about a 39-point win. A lot of good that we're going to continue to talk about. We're getting ready to talk some more nitty-gritty. We're going to talk offense and defense. Offense coming up next. But before we get there, folks, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, we'd greatly appreciate a 5-star review. And as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, gentlemen, let's talk some offensive key takeaways in the Irish Breakdown postgame show brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And this offense put up quite the performance, and one that I was talking earlier in the week. I think my score prediction was 34-14 because I said that I had to see it. They've had the capability to score what they did tonight. And honestly, you could argue, we'll talk about this in a little bit, they could have scored more. And still in a game where they put up 49 offensive points, they still left some out on the field. But again, not complaining about a 39-point win. Brian, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. You're the offensive guy. You had more of the, I guess, positive outlook on what your score prediction was than what I had. And so a lot of the things that you saw tonight kind of came to fruition.
I was spot on the offense. I gave the shaft to Eric Schmidt. I assumed they were going to miss an extra point, and I didn't give enough credit to the defense is basically how my prediction went. But, Trev, I just kind of felt like this was going to be one of those games where they were just going to come out and perform well. I felt like Mike Denbrock's not the kind of coach that you're going to play like they played last week against BC, and he's just going to be like, no worries, guys, we'll be fine. No, this was going to not be a fun week in South Bend this week with the offense. And I just felt like they were going to get locked in and get focused. And Sean, how many times have we seen this in the past where with Denbrock as the OC where, they're not paying it, where they're, don't play well and they come out that next week and just rock and just dominate. And that's just kind of how it felt that we were going to see this week. But look, there's a lot of reasons why, I didn't think the offensive line performed all that well in the run game. That was a little frustrating. Part of it was Navy's game plan. Navy, like BC last week, said, hey, we're going to attack and we're going to go at them and we're going to, we're just going to try to take the fight to Notre Dame and not let them get their run game going. Well, when you do that, then you're going to leave yourselves with some not super favorable matchups on the outside. And that goes back to, Sean, what you were saying earlier. There's just so many weapons on this team that how do you stop this team, man? Like, okay, so we're going to put all our effort to stop Jeremiah Love. So Jeremiah Love doesn't do a whole lot early in the game until really his long touchdown run. So it's like first play of the game, 0 yards, no gain. Second play of the game, no game. Your offensive line gets whooped. Next play, great play call from Mike Denbrock. You're already seeing early pressure. Let the pressure come. Hit that angle route behind him. That's something we talked about, Trev. Like, get more creative with how you get guys football. You get some distance. In the very next play, you run a play-action post route over the top to Malachi Fields, which is a great play call because you just ran the ball twice. They know that you want to get Jeremiah Love going, so they're going to come biting down. You see the safeties on the first 3 plays being real aggressive, first two plays being aggressive. So you run that play action and take that shot over top. And while I was frustrated with the performance of the offensive line in the run game, and the struggles in the run game were not just related to Navy's defense, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But pass pro is pretty good. They did a lot of max pro tonight. Max pro means, tight end, running back, both stay in. But that back-to-back right there, guys, to me really said, okay, they're going to be aggressive in this football game. And, you come out your second series, you end up, going 3 and out on your next series. But then, they were cooking after that. And, we saw the third series get started. They run an RPO. CJ with a great read. He sees the linebacker come down, but here's the part about it I liked. Not that he pulled it, but he saw the backside safety coming down from the backside, and so he held it and waited for Malachi to clear and then threw it behind him. It was like, okay, that's a read that CJ hasn't been super comfortable with, which I liked. And then, you come out the next play, you see kind of what they were doing is they were doing a lot of cover 0 or cover 1 with the corner playing off. So then they just start taking the easy access throws, to Malachi, and they just go right down the field and score a touchdown. And that was the drive to me that said, okay, this they hit the big plays on drive 1, then they just methodically go down the field on drive 2, and you were like, it's going to be a long night for Navy. It's going to be a really long night for Navy. And it was the perfect answer to Navy going down and scoring. And that's the thing that I really like, guys. And we talk about complementary football. Next series, Navy goes 3 and out, and Notre Dame goes right down the field and scores a touchdown once again, and converted 2 third downs. They ran a quick zone play on 3rd and 7, just hit it inside. It's a great call. Haven't seen that type. It was kind of like a dart play. Hit that inside real quick. And then CJ late again, throwing that stutter and go to Malachi twice in a row, 2 games in a row. They run a deep route to Malachi that if CJ just lets it go early, he runs underneath it for a touchdown. But, misses it, still get the PI, and then they go down the field. And look, I've been real hard on Will Paulding all year, deservedly so. And he had a couple big misses early in this game. He takes the wrong read on the post route. And CJ should have thrown that ball anyway, but Will doesn't run hard because I think he's going to get the ball. That's kind of a little bit of a lazy block on the play where Jordan Faison got tackled for a loss. But the job he did on that 3rd down, on the 3rd touchdown drive, flew off the ball, sold the go route, quick, getting out of his break, gets open, catches the ball, moves the chains, right? So I'm already happy. But then the toughness he showed after the play, I was like, okay, that's what I need to see more of from Will Paulding. Use your speed off the line. Use your quickness after the catch. That's the guy that I want to see more of on that particular play. And like when he's cooking, and then, they were getting Faison involved, I just felt like Mike Denbrock did a great job of recognizing early, hey, they're playing man on the outside. Let's get our receivers moving. Let's take advantage of the quick game. Even like the play on the 1 3rd and long, where they ran a slot fade and CJ throws the ball like 4 yards short of the sticks. But if you go back and watch that play, CJ got out of his pedal quick to get the ball to Faison because he saw the corner sinking. So his thought is, let me get it to Faison quick so he can catch and square this guy up. And Faison did that, squared the guy up, made a miss, and converted it for 16 yards. So it was, Trev, I said to you before the game, you asked me, what will you see to know that this team came to play? And I was like, I want to see some urgency from the receivers. And I saw that from Jordan Faison early. I saw that from Malachi early. We eventually saw that from Will Pauling, and then we saw it from KK. The receivers came out to play today, and that was the biggest, best sign for me. I thought Denbrock did a great job in the pass game, going after what Navy did. I still don't love the fact they don't have any answers for teams that want to crash the inside. I mean, the run game numbers are great, Sean. You said they outrushed Navy, but that was partly because Jeremiah Love's a freak, with the 48-yard touchdown run where he got hit behind the line of scrimmage. Like, that stuff you still got to fix. We still got to see some answers there. But in a lot of ways, I really liked what I saw from Mike Denbrock tonight. And he just said, look, you want to stop our run game? Fine. We're just going to punish you. But it wasn't like last week or in past games where it's just the big plays. They not only had the big plays, but like Trev pointed out, but they also were great in situational football. Perfect in the red zone, great on third down, perfect on fourth down. Guys, there was a lot to like about how this team played it. And no, Navy's not very good on defense, but they did exactly what an elite offense is supposed to do when you're playing a defense that's not great. I was very pleased overall with what we saw tonight.
Sean, talk to us a little about some offense, man. What do you got?
Yeah, I think, Brian, when you started out talking about CJ, it was something that Malik said it this week, and he was like, CJ has been playing very well because he's been playing the offense. Like, he's playing the offense. He said, but when he takes that next step and masters the offense, he's like, now everybody's going to be in trouble because you're going to start to see him just do certain things. And I think we saw that tonight, like checking the certain runs, the blitz coming from one direction, checking to the run in the opposite direction, and it's just breaking loose, checking and just giving little quick looks. Him and Cam Williams, it was funny. Cam was trying to point out the safety coming up, and CJ kind of just acknowledged, almost like, thanks for pointing. It was just those little things. You could start to see the connection he has with everyone else. And when he gets to the point where he starts to master, and I said, I believe when he gets 2 weeks to prepare for the playoffs, he's going to take another jump. Like, just the preparation, the way he is, the way Mike Denbrock talks about, we give him more and he just takes it and absorbs it, and he impresses us and makes us think that we can give him even more. Now, you mean to tell me you're going to give him 2 weeks off to prepare and really dig in? He's going to take another step, which is going to make this offense even more dangerous. So just seeing that maturation from CJ, that's incredible. And like you said, the opponent wasn't like an opponent that was really going to give a lot of resistance, but just the operation is impressive. It's impressive. You talk about the offensive line, like you said, it's still something to figure out because teams, I'm still wondering when we're going to actually use the outside to counter, or those swing passes, Brian, that you talked about, when people are just crashing and pinching to the inside with the defensive line. Hey, let's get our running backs one-on-one with these linebackers in space and get the ball to them quickly and just make it happen. So that's something that they still have in their back pocket. And then the wide receivers, like you said, they came out with some urgency tonight. And anytime you establish your big dog early, and Malachi Fields is a mismatch every week. Every week, yes. He has 3 inches at minimum on whomever is defending. And so they finally did a good job of doing what they should do every week.
So mad at him, Sean, when he dropped that one ball, because that'd put him over 100 yards.
That'll put him over 100 yards.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And for me, it was funny because I tweeted, I was actually watching Arkansas and Michigan State basketball before the Notre Dame game started. And I tweeted out, man, I love how Tom Izzo's guards always know how to properly feed the post. It's a lost art, right? And I think you have to know how to properly feed that man. Feed him every week. It doesn't take much. Just 4 to 5. It changes, dude. You will change everything. You will make teams back off of what they intend to do early on if you just establish him early. Now you get teams on their heels, and now you can go to work, really go to work with the run game and kind of alleviate the pressure. That's a lot of pressure because this offensive line knows week to week, look, we're going to be seeing 8, 9 in the box. That's not an excuse because you still have to operate and do your job. But you can make things a little bit easier by, causing a little bit or causing teams to kind of like be a little more cautious when they come down and crash off the edge or when they crash into the gaps and pinch. For me, tonight was just one of those games. This was a great film game to give Pitt. This is something to give Pitt like, okay, we might want to rethink what we thought we were going to be able to do. Because if they're doing this, do we really want to leave Malachi man to man as much as we intended to? Mm-hmm. Man, if we do that, Will Paul is he going to do? It's so much.
Is after Pitt's going to do what everybody else has been doing the last month, which is like we're going to bracket. Teams have been bracketing Malachi Fields. That's why I've been begging Notre Dame to move him around the offensive formation because teams are just bracketing him and taking him out of the game. Honestly, by the end of the second drive, you didn't need to do that because you saw they're playing him one-on-one. So there wasn't a need to move him, just feed him. Because I think he had all but one of his catches, I think, was in the first half.
Oh, if CJ doesn't drop the ball, that's another touchdown.
Oh, yeah. 100%. He was just running by dudes tonight. Like, Navy just had no chance against him tonight. But that first post route, that was a thing of beauty, an absolute thing. I think they only hit like 2 post routes all of last year. I mean, Malachi's already hit 2 at least, and then they hit KK tonight. So, Trev, what were some of your thoughts? What were some of your takeaways from the offense tonight?
Yeah, Malachi Fields absolutely became like that was the first adjustment that Mike Denbrock made. The second that he saw that they were just going to play him man up, Malachi Fields became the first read in almost every concept that they ran. But one of the things that I did appreciate is they did move him around. Like they put him to the field a couple of times. I saw him line up in the slot a couple of times. So they're starting to experiment with that. But big picture, I saw everything that I needed to from the offense for this game specifically. You got to stack performances. But we talked on Thursday about get more creative, get more personnel involved, do more than just, hey, it's no secret that when you line up in 13 personnel with Matt Jeffries, the only wide receiver on the field, you're running the football. And they got a lot more creative. We saw passing concepts in the red zone, which, by the way, speaking of Malachi Fields, I think one of the best plays he made all night wasn't even the target. It was on the pick route that he ran. It is so difficult to run pick routes as a wide receiver and not make any contact with the receiver that you're switching with and his defender, especially when you're 6'4", 223 pounds. Man, I think that was the most underrated play from him tonight. I also need to issue a public apology for CJ Carr or to CJ Carr because on Thursday night, Jesse Stiers and I were talking about his line on FanDuel was set over under 2.5 passing touchdowns. And I was like, look, man, I love CJ Carr as much as the next guy. I do. But he's only gone over 3 touchdowns once this season. It was against Arkansas. And the last time we saw him play in inclement weather, it didn't look that great. I'm not saying CJ Carr watched the spread option, nor am I saying that we are the reason that he did what he did tonight. But I need to issue a public apology because he absolutely died. I mean, he had just as many touchdowns as incompletions. He had 3 incompletions and 3 touchdowns tonight, 13 of 16. He ended with a passer rating of 257.6. It's decent.
Trev, what was his yards number?
Like on FanDuel?
Yeah.
Or 244.5.
Okay. This is one of the many reasons there's a million reasons I don't gamble. This would be one of them because he's on pace to go way beyond that, but then they don't throw the ball in the fourth quarter because they're up big. So, yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. I will say this, guys. I was not happy with the performance of the offensive line tonight, especially in the run game. And yeah, I know they did well for the most part in pass pro, but guys, a great offensive line should be able to do both. And so you don't get a pass on the run game because you did good in pass pro. And there are just too many mistakes tonight, too many missed whiffs. Jadarian Price scores on that second and 3 run if Joe Wadding doesn't whiff on a play.
No.
Like Southern Absher had a couple. Sully had some really good blocks, but he also had some bad misses. Gerby had a couple young guy mistakes. Navy was throwing a lot at them, but I didn't think Emil was great in the run game overall tonight. So there were definitely some issues that I saw in the run game. I'm looking forward to going back and watching the film because just overall I wasn't super pleased with the push. Navy was beating them off the line a little bit too much tonight. Especially, the first 2 plays of the game were perfect examples. They battled. They just didn't play well. I can live with that. I can live with a group that plays hard but just doesn't play well. I've said this a million times, guys. I can fix not playing well if I'm a coach. I can fix, hey, your footwork here, Joe, got you in trouble. You took bad footwork. You lunged instead of driving through your hips, and that allowed the guy to beat you. Sully, you hit the guy, stopped moving your feet. That's why the guy beat you. I can fix that if I'm Joe Rudolph. What I can't fix is you had no effort. You had no toughness. You had no fight. That wasn't the issue tonight with the O-line. Toughness wasn't the issue tonight. They got outplayed a little bit in the run game. And technically they had some mistakes, especially the 2 new starters, which is going to happen. This is start number 3 for Joe and start number 2 for Sully. So that'll be something that Joe Rudolph will have to, and Mike Denbrock will have to get in the lab a little bit this week and correct some of those footwork issues. It looked like some of the post-snap movement that Navy was doing was causing some problems with the offensive line. Yeah, you got to fix that, right? You got to get better in that regard. But 2 things about that. Number 1 is, again, it's so important that if you're not going to play well, I'm not going to be pissed with you if you played hard. And the one thing we saw from the O-line tonight is they did play hard. And so overall, that allowed them to then make some of the plays they made against a defense that's not very good. But again, part of the reason that they had issues is because of how much Navy threw at them. And that's the risk you run. We go back to what Sean said earlier. This team can make you pay so much more for trying to shut down the run game. Mike Denbrock is perfectly fine not needing to overdo the run game or bang his head against the wall to try to get the run game going if you want to put 8-9 guys in the box and have your safeties play downhill. Like, if you want to do that, fine. We'll throw it over your head all day because I got dudes on the outside. I can even bring in my backups, and they're going to beat you deep. KK beat him deep. Cam Williams beat a guy deep. It's like, fine. You want to do that? Cool. And if we needed to, we could have got Eli Raridan involved in it. So, that part you live with, but that's what makes this offense really good. And if you're not going to play well in the run game, you better at least pass pro well. And for the most part, they did well. I got to go back and see. I did not see who gave up the pressure on the throw to Cam Williams. I have to go back and look on that. Did either of you guys see that? Was that a lineman or a back? I did not see that. So I'll have some answers.
It was a late pressure by the linebacker, right? Wasn't that late pressure by the linebacker coming up the middle? I think, yeah.
So I have to go back and look and see what happened. But outside of a couple plays, they didn't really get close to CJ and pass pro. Now, again, they max pro'd a lot, and that helped. But you need to max pro when a team is bringing as much pressure as what they brought tonight. So, again, if you're going to play bad in one area, then you better play well in another area. And I thought that they did that tonight. So, yeah, overall, guys, I'm very pleased. Just shoot, look at the numbers. 249 rushing yards, 253 passing yards, 504 yards of offense. They finished with 8.8 yards per play. They were over 9 going into the fourth quarter. So I love that the second team offense didn't really do anything to take that away. And if you don't have the kneel down at the end, you're probably still right at 9. Yeah. That's a pretty impressive performance. Again, is Navy a great defense? No, we said that during the week. This is not a great Navy defense, but that's what top teams are supposed to do. They had 371 yards at the end of the third quarter, and let's just say hypothetically they would have played all 4 quarters the same way. They would have had 494 yards. So the second team came in the fourth quarter and actually added to the total, like to the range of what they would have finished with. And you love that because why? Because Aeneas Williams starts for a lot of teams that Notre Dame plays this year.
Yeah.
That Ron Payne starts for half the teams that Notre Dame would play against this year. KK Smith starts for a good chunk of teams that they're going to play this year. And that's what makes this team so dangerous on offense, guys, is they're bringing in backups and they're putting dudes on the field. They bring your backup running back in mop-up time. This is a guy that ran a sluggo for a big play in the freaking Orange Bowl last year. And then the next play ran for 20 yards to get them down in the first goal when they were down 10-3. They're just absolutely loaded from a skill talent standpoint. And tonight was a perfect example. They were toying with Navy tonight, guys. I mean, they were just so much better than Navy in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. And I felt like they did a great job of coming out in the third quarter, Trev, and saying, okay, this is an important moment in the game. What happens here is going to determine whether this is a battle for 4 quarters or we're going to put this team away. And I felt like that statement coming out in the second half and just going right down the field. I mean, first play of the game, you're trying to throw a bomb. Now, it ended up not working out because CJ dropped the snap. But I just love the statement that Mike Denbrock made with that play call. We're going deep on the first play coming out of the gate. And then even with that, your drive still only took 3 plays because you had that was the play, the third down where CJ quickly got the ball out. Jordan makes the play, and then Jeremiah scores on the next play. You come out the next series, you get the ball. Navy goes for it on 4th down, which told you everything you needed to know about where Navy thought this game was going. They went for it on 4th down at their own 34. Next play, Denbrock again goes deep. I loved that aggressiveness, but that was a statement coming out in the third quarter saying, hey, we're not playing with you guys. We're not going to we got an 11-point lead. We're not going to rest on that. We're going to bury you guys. 21 points in the third quarter. Game was over. I thought that was a really impressive part of this too, because that's not an area they've been great this year, guys. That middle 8 offensively has not been an area where the Notre Dame offense has been great this year. Today, I thought they were pretty darn good. 2 touchdowns, I think, or 3 touchdowns in the middle 8, Trev, or was it just the 2? They were close on the third because they scored so quickly. But Navy's possession might have got them outside that, but they were close. Let me see where the third touchdown.
No, it wasn't in the middle 8.
It was at 4. Yeah, it was. Because they scored their first touchdown at 13:27, their second touchdown at 11:27. So the 4-minute would have been the 11-minute mark of the third quarter. So, yeah, they scored 21 points offensively in the middle 8. I thought that was huge. And they were close to getting another one because Jarian Price's touchdown was at 5:57 of the second quarter. So, yeah, I thought that was important because that's not an area they've been great this year when they were so good in that regard last year.
It was just an efficient performance. I mean, guys, we're talking about an offense that put up – Notre Dame's offense tonight only had 44 more total yards of offense than they did against Boston College. That's it. They scored 24 more points. And, yes, I understand the kicking operation last game was bad, but they didn't miss 8 field goals for 24 points. It goes back to finishing. It goes back to running an efficient offense, being more creative in money situations on third down, short down and distance, down in the red zone. And I appreciated that tonight from Mike Denbrock. Now, I am now looking forward to seeing that against a different opponent that's not Navy, like one that that athletically and physically you just have a massive advantage in. Because we did see that tonight. I mean, as incredible as Jeremiah Love's run is, I don't know if he makes that type of touchdown run where he rolls off the belly of a defensive tackle and stays up and then runs for 48 yards for a touchdown. Malachi Fields is fantastic. Down the road, especially once they get to the postseason, you're not facing Irabanoyo Niha, in the playoffs. So there's just going to be some different things. I hope that remains consistent. It's not just we know we can do it against this team. And it remains consistent. But overall, gentlemen, it was just extremely efficient. Really efficient.
I think the funniest moment for me was the Ty Washington touchdown. Because on the first down play, you can see CJ, after he hands it off, looking at Ty Washington like no one's around him. Absolutely no one's around him. So they call the same play, and you can see after he scores, Marcus is like this. Because they were up so much, Marcus is like, yeah, come here, man. Like, just
I saw that too.
off.
I saw that
But it
too.
was funny. It was almost like he had to say something, but he was like, okay. I thought that was a really funny moment because it was so obvious on the first down play. And CJ was like, oh, they're just not going to defend him. And they actually defended him much better on the second play.
They did.
But I thought that was a funny moment. That goes to what Brian was saying. They were just kind of toying with Navy, like just doing what they wanted to do. And they were just playing. They were really playing. They were really, whatever they did in practice this week, can we like copy and paste it,
man,
to next week? Because whatever they did in preparation, it had them locked in offensively. And I think let's think about this. Sometimes you don't appreciate BC until you realize how it prepares you for Navy. You need tough times. Like everyone needs tough times to really show who you are. It like causes you to kind of like raise your level or whatever you have deep in your well, it causes you to pull that up. Right. And I think CJ in a lot of different ways recently has kind of been pushed and challenged. Right. And we're going to see what type of leader, what type of quarterback, who he really was. And I think tonight's performance was just another piece of evidence that, like, yeah, this kid is the real deal and is going to be absolutely amazing when he puts it all together, right?
Yeah.
Because those are tests. Like Boston College is a test, right? Because you can look at his stats and say, oh, well, CJ played well. You could tell he wears it. You could tell he's the type of kid that's like, man, we only put up 20. He wears that. He doesn't separate himself and say, well, I played well. Look at my stats. Right. It's like he's the type of kid that's like, man, we weren't efficient. We weren't locked in. I'm the quarterback. That's on me. And when you have a kid that's a first-time starter and a redshirt freshman that plays like that, you're going to be okay, especially in the biggest moments when it's like things get really tight. I feel really good about how he's going to react. So if it's a tight game, third quarter next week, not worried. That won't be worried at all.
Yeah.
I just won't. I won't be worried at all. Right? We said it last week. At no time did we feel like Boston College was going to win that game.
Right.
At no time, right? And, I see people in the chat like, I'm worried about Pitt. And I'm like, I understand. You respect your opponent. You respect every opponent. But if this team is going to play like this, Pitt's in trouble. If they're going to play like this, and I think the defense next week is going to, I think they're going to take a sigh of relief after this game. Like, okay, we got through Navy because we're never, that game plan is something we don't have to worry about until next year. Now we can get back to doing what we've been doing. So I'm loving how this prepares.
I want to point something out here real quick. Can we all agree on something? The game against USC was by far CJ Carr's worst game at Notre Dame. Can we all agree on that? In the two games since then, CJ Carr has gone 31 for 41, 2 drops, for 517 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions in 7 quarters. I'd say this kid, the one thing remember when we talked about this in fall camp, Sean? He would make an interception. He would throw a pick, make a bad play, and then he'd come back and like lead them on back-to-back scoring drives. He threw the bad pick against Miami and then led them on back-to-back scoring drives. Like, to be a great quarterback, you've got to answer when things don't go your way because that's going to happen. I mean, you guys know I'm a big John Elway fan. I've seen games when John Elway was in his 30s where he played terrible. You're going to have bad games. How do you answer those moments? How do you handle those moments How do you bounce back from those moments, especially when you're young? And whenever we've seen CJ Carr not play, he didn't play great against Miami. What does he do? Comes out the next week and shreds Texas A&M. Right? I mean, like, it doesn't play well against Boise State. What does he respond with? He didn't play bad against Boise. He just didn't play great against Boise. What does he do when he comes back out the next week? Shreds NC State. Has a really poor game against USC. And you could tell that bothered him even in the game. Just after the pick, just like how demonstrative he was. And then to respond that in 2 games in a row to go 31 for 41, which is that's like a very high 70% completion percentage. So that would be 75.6% completion percentage for 517 yards. I mean, that's let's see, that is 12.6 yards per attempt. And that is 16.7 yards per completion. In 2 games since then, guys, I would say that this is a young man that knows how to bounce back from his own struggles, his own quote unquote adversity. I don't even want to call it adversity because it's not like it was something bad happened to him. He just didn't play well. I absolutely love that. Love that.
Last thing for me on the offensive side of the ball, a couple of quick shout outs. Shout out to Jerome Bettis Jr. for getting his first catch of his collegiate career.
Yes.
That was exciting to see at the end. And then I guess Jack Larson also had a catch this year against Purdue,
great
but
catch.
It went for 0 yards.
Oh, he did catch the ball against Purdue? I don't remember that.
According to ESPN, the raw stats, he had 1 catch for 0 yards. So
we'll count this one as his first real catch.
I'm going to count it as his first one. Yeah. It was a heck of a play by Kenny, too.
Yes.
Man. Yeah.
I mean, he throws. I'm like, where's he throwing this ball? Oh, great job. Great ball, Kenny. Well done. What are you doing? Great ball. That's exactly what that was.
Quarterback coach goes from why are you doing that to that's how I taught you. Yeah.
That's exactly how we drew it up, baby. Exactly how we drew it up. No, I mean, I also love the fact that to watch Kenny lead them on a 93-yard touchdown drive. Because on that you get it 3rd down, he does a great job of stepping away from pressure, scrambling, moving the chains, and then just, obviously Aeneas with the big play to bust it open. So very pleased with what I saw from the offense today, guys. Obviously stuff to clean up, but we always say this, when you're a coach, you're always happy cleaning stuff up when you're coming off a win, especially a win is convincing this. 49 points and 504 yards of offense, 8.8 yards per play. It's a good day's work. Good day's work.
Folks, that's going to do it for the offensive portion of this post-game show. Don't go anywhere. We're getting ready to talk defensive takeaways, and I'm sure that this is going to be a really fun conversation. And I actually don't mean that sarcastically. I'm actually really excited to talk about the defense tonight. But before we get there, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you have that notification bell hit so you know whenever we go live. Whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. In a couple of days, I know Brian and Vince are going to be coming out with upon further review, all the more reason to be subscribed to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, gentlemen, in part 3 of the post-game show here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, we're talking the Notre Dame defense. And one of the most fascinating parts of this season for me has been the evolution of, 1, of the defensive performance, and 2, how their performances really started to change the way that they're being perceived by a lot of the Notre Dame fan base. But I'm here to tell you that my takeaway from this, and Brian, I'll kick it to you after this. My biggest takeaway from this defense is I think the switch is now finally flipped. We had different, I'm confident in saying that because we had all of these different mile markers. At least I did. It's like, okay, what you did against Arkansas was cool, but they dropped some passes, still had some blown coverages. Let's see what happens against Boise State. Okay, Boise State was great, but you prepare for NC State different than you prepare for Boise State. So let's see what they do against us. And then they shut down NC State. It's like, okay, that was really cool, but can you stack it?
Yes.
And now we're coming off of performances
against USC, like, right? How are you going to do against? Yeah, exactly.
And now, man, I'm with this type of game plan and how you have to prepare for a Navy team like this. This defense has turned it around, and it's been really fun and fantastic to watch, Brian.
Well, and you did it without Christian Gray. You did it out without Donovan Heinisch, and you did it without Boubacar Traore, who I don't think played tonight either, which I said during the week, I personally would not play Boubacar. You guys remember when I said that earlier in the week? So sounds like the Notre Dame coaching staff felt the same way that I did. Look, I was very happy with this performance tonight. I see some people in the chat upset about the first half. I don't care that the quarterback had 108 rushing yards in the first half. It's Navy. Like the first half, they ran the ball for 154 yards. This is the number one rushing offense in college football, and it was a mistake. They allowed the quarterback to get free on a scramble. That wasn't a Chris Ash defensive problem. That was a defensive lineman not holding his contain. There were some personnel mistakes tonight in the first half, but that's going to happen, guys. I keep telling you all this before the game. This is a talented offensive football team. You held them to 10 points in the first half. You held them to 173 yards in the first half. That's a good day's work against a team like Navy. And the other part of it, too, is if you want to talk about, like, okay, how should I feel about this performance? Navy had 5 possessions in the first half. They scored twice. And they scored twice. That's the job. That's the job in this game. I mean, we talked about this, Trev. Coming into this game, Navy was the number 5 team in the country with plays of over 50 yards. Number 5 in the country. And I don't think they had a single play of 50 yards in this game, correct? They didn't have any in the second half. The longest they had in the first half was 41. So, yeah, they had a couple plays here, a couple plays there. They're going to do that. You kept the yards down. You kept the points down. That's what you want to do against a performance like this. And so just why was it a couple things I liked, why it worked. I was happy to see Chris Ash and the staff go with a 4 down front. I'm not a huge fan of 3 down fronts against the triple option. I thought that he used the defensive line to attack. That was good. A lot of times coaches will kind of slow play the D-line and try to string everything out. I thought he did a great job of attacking with the D-line. Navy did some really nice things in the first half. They saw what Notre Dame was doing in the first half, and so they started running a lot of backside action. They started running their quarterback counter where they fake one way and then the quarterback comes backside, which can really mess up the eye discipline of the linebackers. Notre Dame had some problems with that, and then the backside ends weren't playing that great. The safeties weren't feeling great, and that's where Navy had some of their big plays early in the first half was with that misdirection stuff. So you go into halftime, Navy tries to come out and do it in the second half, and Notre Dame blows it up. Great halftime adjustments as well, which allowed them to completely shut Navy down in the third quarter. So, some people are just looking to be pissed, I think. I think some people just don't like Chris Ash, and I get that. So they're just going to be critical of and look for things to be upset about. Were there times the backside contain wasn't there? Yeah, Jordan Patello blew a backside contain. But guys, you're pissed because they weren't perfect. They did the job. 5 possessions Navy had, 2 scores. That's good. That's a good performance in the first half. They gave up 10 points on 5 possessions. That's a good job. Were they perfect? No, they weren't perfect. But they were aggressive. They forced mistakes by Navy. The linebackers, they have the best linebacker room in college football. I don't care what anybody says. The one thing I didn't love in this game, fellas, is the second drive, they immediately went to the second team at D tackle and at linebacker. That was the one mistake. I think you need to let your first team kind of, especially linebackers, have a couple series to kind of get into the flow of the game. And that was the drive where Navy went down and scored. So I didn't love that. But they all settled in. Mad Faramo, his first possession against the option was terrible. Mad Faramo's his second possession against the option, really good. So just even within the game, some of the guys who weren't playing well got better the more they saw it. But overall, very pleased with how the defense performed. And I have no problem criticizing Chris Ash after a win if he deserves it. But when the guy puts together a good game plan, calls a good game, makes great in-game adjustments, and holds a top scoring offense to 10 freaking points, I'm going to praise him. When he completely shuts down Alex Teska and Eli Heidenreich, I'm going to praise him. And some of the yards they did give up were execution mistakes. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So overall, very pleased with the performance tonight from the Notre Dame defense. And I was so happy to see them attack the option tonight. I thought that was probably my favorite part about the performance.
Sean, what are your takeaways from Notre Dame's defense tonight, man?
I think Brian summed it up Pretty well, but I love the aggression. And like you said, an hour before the game, they find out that the guy they've been preparing for all week, or pretty much since fall camp, because they've been taking certain segments during fall camp to prepare for Navy. First bye week, they prepared for Navy a little bit. And so this is a team where you have to build slowly up to them because you just can't cram preparation for them into just 3 or 4 days. That's an injustice to your young guys. So when you think about the adjustment they had to make, I saw somebody in the chat like, "Why wait to the second half?" They didn't wait until the second half.
Yeah, I just
They were gathering information early
right.
in the game. They had not prepared for this kid. They had not prepared for the attack that they were going to use. And so it was totally different. And I think there were certain things that Navy uses with Horvath that they just couldn't go to.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't go to. And so once Notre Dame figured out what they were trying to do to them, I think Jaden Osbury, he gave up the edge on the play just on motion, worrying about the motion going away from him instead of settling and making sure that he sets the edge. And he's so worried about pointing and has his eyes on the motion that he gives up the edge and he gives up leverage and they get outside of him for a nice gain. So after that, though, that was like first series. After that, he's locked in. He leads the team in tackles on the night and plays absolutely amazing. I think one of his best plays, they were talking about Tesla came across and he was supposed to be in pass protection, but you could just see Jaden just got upfield and just attacked the quarterback. And if he doesn't get in his face, Heidemann is wide open, running a little corner route, from the slot. So they were aggressive. They made plays. And like you said, Chris Ash did a great job of adjusting, making adjustments, and then the game plan for the D line to be aggressive. Like you said, even last year, we were frustrated because we were like, yo, why they've done a good job shutting them down. Why did they go to a 3-man front? Al Golden switched up to a 3-man front last year during a certain series. So they settled on that 4-man front. Everybody I saw Sean Sevillano was coming in like getting
Early.
penetration and getting it early, getting into the backfield.
Drive of the game, he was on the field. Armel played in the first half of this game and played well. Armel played well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when you see that, that makes you feel really good. That just makes you feel really good because it's a difficult opponent. It's not the most athletic, big, and strong opponent, but it's a difficult opponent to prepare for. And that goes back to that word that you spoke about, big picture, focus. There was just a focus with this team at every level on both sides of the ball. They were just locked in. And if they made mistakes, okay, they moved on to the next play and they did what they had to do. I think tackling early was an issue.
Yep.
Because that quarterback, he moves a little bit different. He's a little bit bigger than Blake Horvath. I think
twitchier.
Yeah, and I think they had to get used to that as well. But once they, locked in and settled in to what they were facing, players and the staff, I mean, what are you talking about, man? As I said, this is the #1 rushing team in the nation.
Yeah.
They're going to rush. They average 40. I think they average 48 rushes per game. And we were talking about this. I said, when you have a team like Notre Dame that we have been lauding because they were at 89.3 yards per game, giving up on the ground defensively. And that was a really big jump for this defensive front in the way they've been playing. But going up against a team that you knew was going to run the ball 47, 48 times, you really can't look at the yardage and say, oh, man, they gave up 200 yards. Well, man, they also held them under 5 yards per carry. So
listen, Sean, to back up your point, they held Navy 111 yards below their season rushing average, 111. Navy also not only led the team in nation in rushing. You say, well, of course they led the nation in rushing, right? They run the ball a ton. I just want to point out, coming into this game, Navy was 11th in college football in attempts. this season because they're number one in college football at 6.6 yards per play. The next closest team was Oregon at 6.26. And after that, the next closest team is 5.99. They were not only in first place, they were significantly in first place in yards per carry coming in this game. And yes, they had 206 yards because they're an option team. You're going to give up yards. They had them to 4.6 yards per carry, which is also 2 yards below their season average in yards per attempt. That's an outstanding performance. And it's not going to help your rushing numbers because you gave up over 200 yards. But that's why I always say, when you want to evaluate how well your run defense is over the course of the season, you got to remove the triple option teams from it because it's just a different animal. But even in the context of how they performed against them, you held the number one rushing offense in the country, 111 yards below their season average, and 2 whole yards below their yards per carry average on the season. That's a strong performance. Wasn't perfect, but again, you're never going to be perfect. You always strive for perfection, but you know you're never going to be there. So I will say this again as I kick to you, Trev. This linebacking core is so freaking athletic. I thought Jalen Snead had a really rough game. The other 4 linebackers, Drake Bowen, Kingston Viliama-Asa, Madden Framo, and especially Jaden Ausberry, like Sean was talking about, this linebacking core is legit. When you have guys like that and you have a center fielder like Tay Johnson that can fly to the ball the way that he can, you have the athletes to shut down the triple option if you have a proper game plan. And I thought they had a proper game plan, and he allowed his athletes to be athletes in this game, which I loved.
I mean, the stats that you guys are talking about, it's not just rushing, it's everything across the board. I mean, Navy had the number 4 third down offense in the country. In the country. Notre Dame held them to 27% conversion rate. On the season, they averaged 53.9, call it 54% a game. That's pretty decent. I know Navy doesn't pass a whole lot, and I understand that Blake Horvath is out for this game. They average 149 passing yards a game. They had 22 on 3 of 8 passing. As a team, 3 of 10. This was a really impressive performance. I thought the safeties played really well. I thought that Adon Schuler and Tay Johnson both – early on, I thought Adon Schuler was a little out of control.
Yeah.
Early on.
He got blown up on one of those runs. He was out of position. Yeah, he did not start well, but he finished well, I thought.
And then Kingston Viliama-Asa made a play, and it was on Navy's 4th drive of the game in the second quarter. It was a 3-and-out. KVA made an absolutely crazy play. Alex Teska was the lead blocker on this play. And Kingston, in one move, destroyed Teska as the blocker and brought down Woodson, who was the ball carrier. It was fantastic. And it's not like Teska is a normal-sized halfback either. This was a great performance from this defense. They were extremely aggressive, which I appreciated. Marcus Freeman preached all week long, I don't want to play football. I want to play football. We got to be aggressive. We have to attack downhill. And to watch that happen now tells me one way or another. I'm not going to get into who's calling what and who's telling who to do what, but it's nice to see that finally being mirrored, that the message is consistent from the top down, that, hey, we're going to, on display on Saturday, you will see an aggressive, fast, violent defense. And that's what we saw. Now, were mistakes made? Yeah, because no defense ends a game with 0 missed tackles. Like, very few defenses end games with no third down conversions allowed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's mistakes.
Keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, keep going.
But we finally got to see a defensive performance of what we were, I don't want to say promised, but what had been advertised to us for so long. And that's what leaves me coming away with this game with a lot more confidence in this unit, that they can be consistent. And they were, the light bulb was starting to flicker at the end of September. It kind of started to come on in October. And now that we're in November, we had 2 games in November, and they've held a team to a combined 20 points. I mean, Purdue had more than that in the first half. And that's how much Notre Dame's defense has given up in 2 games. So, yeah, man, I mean, this was a good performance from the defense.
I also want to point out too. I thought the issue that Notre Dame did have early was the backside stuff, and especially when the younger linebackers are on the field. If you go back and look, it was a lot of times it was when Madden and Kingston were on the field. They were running stuff where they were showing play side moves and coming back on some traps and stuff. But I got to point out again, I don't know why it took them 8 games to start playing Josh Burnham a lot. But once again, tonight, he was an absolute dude for the defense. And there's a lot of guys that played good. I thought Jared Dawson had another strong game. He does not get talked about nearly enough. He was banged up for the A&M game, but played through it. He hurt his ankle on the Thursday practice, played through it, didn't have a very good game. But outside of that, Jared Dawson's been very good for Notre Dame this year, and people don't talk about him. He was a great portal pickup. He was good again tonight, Trev, just constantly beating Navy off the ball, playing with great pad level. There was times where, we're watching the linebackers make plays outside. There's a play where it was Jaden Ausberry and Leonard Moore made a stuff on an outside run. That ball was not meant to go outside. It just Burnham crashed his guy. Jared Dawson shot the gap and just forced the quarterback outside and stretched him when they wanted to stretch him. And so that was something that I was like, you saw a need for some early adjustments. I thought they adjusted pretty well and were able to handle themselves. The long run on the final drive was just about D linemen not being disciplined. On that particular play, you got to keep the quarterback in the pocket. They were trying. Trev, we talk about don't play hero ball. That was one where they had guys trying to go make plays instead of just relaxing and just, look, make this kid sit in the pocket and beat you. He's an option quarterback. He's not going to beat you from the pocket. And they lost contain, but they ended up settling down and holding them to a field goal. And so that's something that I was very pleased with. But once they kind of settled in and saw that Navy tried to go play side on them and they had no chance. And then they're like, okay, we're going to have to try some different stuff. And that's where some of those things, like second quarter, they come out, they try the jet sweep, which worked early in the game. They try the quarterback counter backside, which worked early in the game. Third quarter, Notre Dame blows it up. So, yeah, I mean, that great team performance, but there was also a lot of really strong individual performances. And I just want to continue to give a shout out to Josh Burnham, who just continues to be an absolute dude whenever he gets on the field for Notre Dame.
I mean, overall keys, man, we talked about how imperative it was that they shut down the fullback.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that. I mean, that's when you run a triple option, especially when Navy resorted back to that was more of the OG triple offense, I think, that we saw.
Yes.
Like in the teens.
Woodson's not the thrower that
exactly.
Horvath is, yeah.
So in an offense that's ran like that, stopping the fullback becomes imperative, because we said it on Thursday, Brian. If Tezca's able to rip off 5, 6, 4, 12, 4, 3, 5, that's how Navy becomes a balanced offense. And we're talking about a player that ended 24 yards under what his over-under was set at on FanDuel. But he finished with 20 yards. Like, his over-under was already set relatively low, and he finished 20 yards under that. I mean, that's a really impressive performance. So it's one of those where it's like, when you game plan for a team like Navy, you're going to have to allow something. The thing that they allowed tonight was Woodson had over 100 rushing yards in the first half. But Heidenreich didn't make any big plays outside of the 1 third down conversion on Mark Zachary. They held Alex Tezca in check.
Had one carry, and he got hit at the line of scrimmage. Nobody tackled. Nobody was like, somebody's supposed to be on the fullback that play, and they weren't on the fullback that play.
No,
because you could see it, like the line was clogged, but nobody was going to tackle him. And he's kind of skirts through. If somebody would have been there, they'd have knocked the ball out, because he was fumbling the ball.
Yep.
And I was like, gosh, darn it. That should have been a turnover.
Yep.
They didn't force any turnovers tonight, did they?
Nope. Turnover battle was 0-0.
I think it was 2 fumbles. One they didn't give credit to. Tackle, Drake was making a tackle. He actually punched the ball out. It hit the ground. And then the other one, I think Jaden Ausberry, when he sacked Woodson, he fumbled the ball, but he recovered it.
That's right.
But
no lineman recovered it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Strong performance
overall, strong performance. But most of all, Like I said, man, this is a breath. I can only imagine being in that locker room and they all look around like, we are so glad we don't have to think about Navy at all.
Yeah.
Like, good.
And no Army this
grief.
year like last year, so you don't have to worry
Right.
about that.
You don't have to worry
Hey,
about them.
one of the things I brought up this week, Sean, in our show was I thought it might be a good idea to play Devontae Smith at corner, especially with Christian banged up. I think getting Christian 2 weeks off against BC and Navy is going to end up being a positive for him moving forward, because you didn't have Donovan Heinisch in this game either.
No,
but I thought Devontae Smith was a force in this game because he's a physical. He's not a big guy, but he's a physical kid. There was one play he lined up inside the linebacker and shot the B gap and blew the run up. You guys remember that short yardage play I'm talking about? It was the third and short. Yeah. I thought Devontae played great. He was good in coverage all night. This was a very strong performance, and it shows how he's a different type of nickel than the last two guys they had, who were Jordan Clark and Thomas Harper were very good players. Don't get me wrong, but like they didn't play against the option. I think Jordan Clark barely played 10 snaps in the 2 option games last year.
Yeah.
But in this game, you could just put Devontae outside at corner, and he could still be a force against the option, which just kind of shows the kind of player he is. So I thought it was good to see that in this game. It was good to see him. I thought he played very well for Notre Dame in this game. Very physical, coming downhill as well.
His only mistake was on the touchdown drive where he chased instead of staying backside on that reverse.
Mm-hmm.
He was chasing.
Botelho was the primary.
Yeah. But other than that, I think he was locked in. I think it was a good move not to give all of those snaps to the freshman. And, Devontae having the experience playing corner and nickel. And against a team like this, you can afford to play him at corner. So, I like that move. I actually like that move a lot.
I want to point out one of my favorite play of the game might have been, was it the second half? Was it the second half when Kingston took out the fullback and the quarterback on the same play?
Nope, that was
drive third quarter, right?
Yeah, that was drive 4 in the second quarter.
So that was the 1st and 10 play. Notre Dame had just scored to make it 14-7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And come out that next play. But everybody's going to talk about, Kingston, look at the athleticism. He blew up the fullback and tailback, and that was impressive. But did you guys see before the snap? He shifts over. He looks over to Madden, and he points to the ground and goes, come right here. Line up right here. That's not something we've seen a ton from Kingston. Taking like ownership pre-snap, that was the best part to me, was his awareness of this is what's going on, communicating to a teammate, getting him lined up, and then go making a play.
Yeah.
Like that was a great sign for me that like, okay, Kingston's starting to turn a little bit of a corner as well, because Kingston's been excellent this year, but he's still a sophomore. And so he's still evolving as a player. That was the best part to me, is we know he's physically gifted. We know he's tough. We know he can run. We know all that stuff. We know he's instinctive. But today he just looks so much more comfortable with being in the right position, from an alignment standpoint, but then also some of that communication. That was a great sign to see. Again, I still say I would have liked to seen more of him and Drake together in this game. And we saw it a little bit. When we did, it was very good. It was very good. But I kind of understood not doing that today, because they needed to have more of Kingston with Madden, because he needed to help make sure Madden was getting lined up correctly. And so I understood why we didn't see more of that today, but I thought that was really an important part of this performance.
Agreed. And kind of like how we talked about last year, 34 and 27 being on the field at the same time, barring him changing his number, 19 and 27 on the field at the same time here in the near future is going to start looking real nasty.
Yep.
Because those are two very rangy, really big linebackers, and that's going to be something special. And it could be to where if they stay in their base 4-2-5, 19 is still going to continue struggling getting on the field because of how well 34 and 4 are playing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I also just want to point out I'm sorry, Trev. I thought you were done. My bad, man. Go ahead.
Nope, you're good. I was wrapping up saying it's just a spoil of riches in Max Bull's room.
Big time shout out to Jaden Osbury, though, by the way. I don't know if I talked about this enough. He was outstanding today.
Yeah,
and like
man.
there was one play that like I marked him as a negative. I made a note that he did something wrong. Yeah, it was there was 2 plays in a row where I thought he made a mistake. It was on the touchdown drive by Navy. And they ran the jet sweep for 15, and he was late reacting to it and got sealed inside. And on the next play, they ran that quarterback counter backside, and he had bad eyes. And then 2 plays later, this is what I love. This is what I'm talking about, like how what I like from these linebackers. 2 plays later, he absolutely flies downhill and just blows up a run play. And then, the next series just comes out and plays great football. So I'm not trying to point that out like, oh, bad job by Jaden Osbury, but just to point out, like, this defense is starting to – one of the complaints we had early in the year was where are the playmakers? Where are the guys when things aren't going well that can step up and make plays, that can get themselves out of a funk? And we saw a lot more of that. We're seeing so much more of that, and today was another perfect example. Don Schuler comes out. I thought, I'll be honest, I thought Don was bad in the first quarter and a half. But then he settled in and played much better down the stretch. That's a sign of a defense that's maturing, because they can get themselves out of some funks. They can make adjustments, and overall just played really good football. Vince, what's good, man?
How's it going, fellas? Sorry, I'm a little late to the party. I was surprised by a certain someone coming home from college when I got home tonight.
Nice.
So I had to chat with him about his game and, some other stuff. So I apologize that I'm a little late, but they did win by 3, and he kicked a field goal. So winner, chicken dinner. But
we're going to move on to Super Chats in a second, Vince, but I wanted to give you a chance here real quick before you leave. You were there. You got to kind of see the defense, is just overall thoughts on the defense before we move on to Super Chats.
I mean, look, the defense, I thought early with the first team out there before they started subbing and doing some different things, part of their rotation. I shouldn't say subbing, but part of their rotation, when they had the ones in there, it looked really good. And then I thought it took the 2s a little bit longer to kind of get acclimated to the option and the speed of it and all of those things. Eventually they settled in and they were just fine. So that was really what happened with that touchdown drive and all that. It was against the second group of linebackers and things like that. But I thought the defense, again, they just have so much more talent. The scheme was important. Don't get me wrong. I liked a lot of things that they did scheme wise, some of the matchups that they have, moving some guys out to corner that don't normally play corner, all of the things that I'm sure you guys have already talked about. But they're just so fast and athletic that, yes, scheme is important. But when you've got guys like that, it makes your scheme look that much better. And that was the case a lot of times. When KVA knocked the kid just completely off his feet and then ran into the quarterback as well. Like, that's how you do it. That's how you bust up the mesh or whatever. It's like, just take them all out, just whatever.
That's our dudes are way better than your dudes play. That's
exactly right, man. Like, and that was evident a lot of the night, to be honest with you, which was fun to see. I mean, the defense is so fast and athletic, and I like that against Navy. I was nervous that sometimes you can overplay things and you can do some things that can get you in trouble. And that happened to a degree. Like I said, they didn't set the edge real well a couple of different times as they were able to get outside and, things like that. But again, they settled in and they just dominated defensively. I think, Navy had 20 some odd yards, 22 yards passing. And I think they average like 125, 130 yards, a game. They completely shut that down. You know what I mean? And so I just thought Notre Dame.
That was aided by the fact that Trev had mentioned that earlier. Woodson's more of a traditional option guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's not
absolutely
the thrower that Horvath was.
But when things are working in a triple option offense, which they never really got going, when things are working, you can get some hidden pass yardage. You know what I mean? Like, because you start taking steps up and then you go over the top and you can do some different things. a traditional triple option team that is doing what they're supposed to do has more than 22 yards through the air. Regardless of who the quarterback is. Because
the problem is, Vince, is their front side run game was non-existent.
Right.
They couldn't run speed option. They couldn't run their dive and the quarterback keep. They couldn't run their quarterback duck plays. Because anything front side
that completely.
Only success they had running the football was the backside counters and reverses and the jets and the scrambles.
Right.
And when you take that away, it really hurts the play action pass game.
Yes.
Because if you're crashing those reads, then you've got to – and they tried to do something backside, and that's the play where Jaden Osbury ate it up.
Right.
So that was a big part too, is they were so good taking away the front side option looks that there was nothing Navy could do off of it.
Right. And that's the thing. If you're running triple and you can't do some of the base things that are part of the triple option, if you can't even get that going, you're in trouble because everything builds off of that. It's like learning math. If you don't know algebra, you're going to be in trouble when you get to algebra 2 and, calculus and all of that kind of stuff. So if they don't have their base foundation stuff working, then they're going to be in trouble because the rest of all of it builds on itself. And they could never really get it going. They could never build on the basic stuff that is the triple option, the midline, the veer, all of they couldn't build off of that because it wasn't working. And so that's when Navy starts to panic and they start to not panic. I shouldn't say that, but that's when the offense stutters and sputters and, that kind of a thing. And that's what happened. And they tried to do some different things to try to get things going. It just didn't work. And it's because Notre Dame has a much better roster than Navy does. It just is what it is. So defensively, I was very happy with the way that they played. I was definitely nervous about coming into this game. And, Chris Ash has never really called a defense against, a triple option. And what was that going to look like and things like that. It was very clear that they went into the Notre Dame defense versus the option, and that's what we saw tonight. And the thing about defense against the triple option is you have to have things ready for obviously when they run the double wing and all of those different things, and then you also have to be ready for when they run traditional football, and things like that, and be able to shift and move and do all of those things. Yeah, but you're not really calling a bunch of defensive plays when you play against triple. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting there calling exotic blitzes and doing all these, because that's how you get in trouble. You stay fairly base, and then you can show different fronts and you can show different looks, but you're not calling blitzes. You're not doing all kinds of things. And so it's really the preparation that makes the defense really good against triple, not really what you're doing on game day, if that makes sense. And I thought Notre Dame did a good job in preparation for this game. They were ready for pretty much everything that Navy threw at them.
Hey, Vince, what was your score prediction?
It was 49-10, Brian, and felt really good about that.
Just had to get you that little shout out there, buddy.
Appreciate that. I haven't been right in a while.
Because I'd be making one of y'all bring that up during the show if I got it right. I'd be like, hey, which one of y'all is going to set me up, make me look good? So I'll do that for you, buddy.
I appreciate you. When it was 35-10, I was like, I think this might have. It was early in the third quarter. I was like, this could actually happen. They need 2 more scores. They got that in them, and they just got to hold them. Well, that was the part I was nervous about.
The backup defense did great as well. They had 2 possessions and didn't give up any points.
Yeah, backup defense,
awesome.
and then the backup offense. They kept their foot on the gas, and until the end, obviously. But sure. They were aggressive and they played hard.
I wanted to punch that one in at the end, but I understand why they didn't.
I totally understand.
Freaking Jabron Payne. I love that kid, but come on, Jabron. That's you're jogging into the end zone, man. All right. I just want to get your thoughts, Vince, before we get to Super Chat. You can wrap up this thing.
Yeah, obviously, Vince, good to have you in here, buddy. But that'll do it for part 3 of the show, where we just got done talking about the defensive takeaways on the post-game show. We're going to wrap this all up with some Super Chats to send us on home. But before we get there, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. You guys know what to do. And as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. Gentlemen, in the final part here on the post-game show on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by FanDuel, we got some Super Chats. And if you want to get your question answered, Make sure you throw one of those in. This was an awesome win. Notre Dame won by 39 points, 49-10 over Navy, one of their rivals. And this was a fun win, to say the least. So I'm ready to wrap this whole thing up and send this on home with answering some pretty fun super chats. I know we have about 18 in there right now, starting with Isaac Salee. Thank you for the super chat. KVA with that hit that will be shown. He's a college football Hall of Famer.
Whoa.
It's a little early, but he's got a chance to be special. There's no doubt about that. It's a little early, but he's playing. I mean, I really felt like the last month, him and Drake especially are really coming to their own. And then now you've seen Jaden Alsbury, I think, play a couple good back-to-back games. I think the linebackers are really heating up, boys. Next week, and they're going to need to be, because next week they're going to be stressed going against Desmond Reed in that offense.
Next week, and really, Brian, this upcoming week of shows, I'm really excited to talk about the indirect matchup between Notre Dame's linebackers and Pitt's linebackers, because they're both going to be tested in big ways. That's going to be a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. From Joe Papiti, thank you for the super chat, Joe. Strong win. Love that lots of guys got involved. I'm no O-line expert, but to me, the line didn't run block very well tonight. But regardless, go IB and go Irish.
Appreciate you, Joe. Yeah, we talked about that. They didn't run block very well.
Super chat from Maltavius. Thank you for the super chat. Aeneas Williams Ball Touches Fund.
That just doesn't even sound right, bro. I'm
Awesome.
sorry. That just does not sound right. Look, I get why people want Aeneas to carry the football more, but I just your two running backs are playing at an elite level right now. I just, it's hard for me to justify not having them both on the field, one of them on the field. But I get it. But I mean, again, Aeneas is a dude. It's just the problem is the two dudes ahead of him are even older and more dudes.
Yeah.
They are more dudes. From Podrick McGuire, thank you for the super chat. Third quarter was some of the best Notre Dame ball all season. Also, shout out to Ty Washington. Happy for the kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That third quarter got out of hand fast, Sean. I mean, it just was like if your nachos were taking a little bit longer to cook, man, you'd have come back inside and it'd been like, well, man, what happened? It's 35-10, and I didn't think I was gone that long.
Yeah, I like you said,
Sean, it felt like Tyson Spinks. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like Tyson Spinks, where like you go for I'll just go to the bathroom real quick before the third quarter starts. You come back and fight's over. You know, I mean that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, like you said, coming out of the half, they felt lucky to get that field goal going in, and then coming out of the half, that first series with Notre Dame having the ball out of the half was a must stop for Navy. If they were going to have any chance to be in the game, it was a must stop. And then you follow that up with the adjustments we pointed out defensively. It was ball game pretty much. Once Notre Dame scored that first series in the second half, it was pretty much blouses from there.
Yeah,
I'm pumped because I've been calling for a Ty Washington catch for what
yes,
feels
you have.
like.
Somebody in the chat said that earlier. Like Trev's been begging for that.
I have,
so,
bro.
yeah.
Let's see. He enrolled in January? So by February, I was begging for it.
I can't believe. Go ahead, Vince.
I was going to say, if you would have called for a Ty Washington anytime touchdown, you'd be making all kinds of money tonight.
Yeah, sure would have.
No doubt.
That would have been plus a lot.
I can't believe that's the first tight end touchdown all season.
That's nuts. That's nuts. And once again, another game without a Raritan target. Like they had all kinds of
this one I got.
Success.
This game I got because of how much pressure Navy was bringing. You kind of needed Eli to
needed him in
staying in pass pro a little bit more. I actually understood this one.
Yeah.
I mean, and CJ only threw 16 freaking passes.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true. They're impactful.
From Devin Holdeman, thank you for the super chat, Devin. Let's go Irish. Felt great to finally blow out and dominate an inferior opponent again. Credit to Eric Schmidt coming in and hitting all of his kicks. Jeremiah Love for Heisman.
Yeah, I mean, it's finally because it's. I mean, the last time they did that was all the way back on October 11th when they played NC State.
Yeah,
even his kickoffs were better tonight, right? Because
we
were used to him kicking the ball. Yeah, we were used to him kicking the ball out of bounds a couple of times a game. giving teams the ball on the 35. I think you guys made me pay attention to the entire process more than I've ever paid attention to the entire process.
Don't say
of a
you
PAT.
guys. There's one guy.
Vince.
That guy.
Yeah, Vince. I was watching the snap, the hold, the spin. I was watching everything tonight. I'm like,
I
okay.
love it. I love
like,
it.
That looks a lot better. That looks a lot better.
People love it. No, his kicks look really good. I will say that because after his first PAT, he has a tendency to kind of wobbles when he kicks it. It's just not pretty, and therefore it doesn't go straight very often. You know what I mean? The first one I was like, oh, it's Eric Schmidt. But everyone after that, nice end over end, right down the I loved it. It was great. He was obviously feeling it. So hey, you run with that. I was wondering if they were going to try to almost manufacture a field goal opportunity at some point. They never really had that opportunity, which is probably a good thing because he left today 7 for 7 and was perfect, and he can sit on that for a week, and that's what you want. So
I was actually jealous watching the Oregon-Iowa game, watching a place kicker actually kick a 58-yarder in the driving rain. I'm like,
both teams' kickers were money in that game.
Right. I'm like, in the worst conditions, these kickers are money, and we're sitting up here like hoping we can make a PAT.
I do think it was good that he didn't have to kick any field goals tonight.
Yeah,
like just let him have the 7 extra points. Let him build some confidence, and then maybe next week you'll need him to go with that one.
Absolutely.
Super chat from ND Milton fan. Thank you for the super chat. Ty Washington has the best touchdown dance.
It was all right.
Like on the team or just in general? I mean, my answer to both is probably no. But
yeah, my answer to both is the same. It's all right. Yeah. It's all right.
I don't even remember what he did, so that wasn't very memorable for me.
Show him, Sean.
I can't do that one. I can do the one. I can do the one that CJ did. I can do that because all the kids in my church do it, so I know it. But other than that, I have no idea what Ty Washington was doing. No idea.
Oh my God!
Never seen it before.
From the Golden Domer, thank you for the super chat. Great halftime adjustments from a super soft first half defense. CJ is such a dude. So happy to see Ty get a touchdown. Pitt is in for it next week.
Agree with number 2. Agree with number 3. Ready for number 4. You and I have a very different takeaway from the performance of the defense in the first half.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't perfect. They had some mistakes, but it was soft is not even remotely a word I would use for the defense in the first half. And I'm not even talking about soft. I don't think he means it like they weren't hitting and they weren't being physical. I think he was more referring to the scheme. I did not see it that way. I'm actually honestly shocked by some of the comments I've seen in the chat tonight. Not like, oh, you guys are so terrible. I just mean I wasn't expecting to see it. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to see as much negativity towards the performance of the defense as people thought. I thought the defense was very good schematically the whole game. They didn't execute it super great in the first half on a couple of series. But again, 5 possessions, 2 scoring possessions. They forced punts on 3 of the first 4 drives. It wasn't even turnovers on downs. It was punts, 3 of their first drives. That was a performance that I was pleased with. Very pleased.
Guys,
let me say this, Trev. Navy was 132nd in the country in total punts this season. Meaning they don't punt very often. They average, let me see this. They average 2 punts a game. Notre Dame forced them to have 3 punts in the first half alone. If you're not happy with that, again, doesn't mean you need to say it was perfect. It's the greatest performance against the option in the history of option football. I'm not saying that at all. That was pretty good performance, and schematically it was fine. Any issues that were there in the first half were technical. Or Jordan Patello blowing an assignment. Josh Burnham missing a tackle on a sack. Mark Zachary biting on an inside move when he already had inside leverage taken away. Those stuff like that. Jaden Alsbury getting sealed outside. Stuff like that. Schematically, I had no problems with what we saw in the first half other than like you said, they were getting hurt with something early, the quarterback counters, but then they adjusted to it and made the stops. But it had nothing to do with being soft.
No.
You can't stop everything in the triple option, guys. Not for 60 minutes.
No, the defense played better than I thought that they were going to. Legitimately. I thought the defense was going to play well because of what they had done over the last couple of games, but I wasn't expecting that performance. I lost a bet tonight because I bet against the Notre Dame defense, and not even for a bad thing. Like Navy's over under points total on FanDuel before the game kicked off was 13.5. And I was like, okay, this game is going to be ugly. The weather's going to suck. I'm assuming that they're going to score more than 13 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong. Defense played a lot better than what I even thought that they were going to, and that's really, really impressive, man. Really impressive.
Can I just say something that drives me nuts?
Sure.
Please stop with the we owe Chris Ash an apology stuff. Because him doing well now doesn't change that he sucked the first month of the season. We can do both. We can say when it's bad, we can say it's bad. We can say it's not good. It's not how he should have been. And when he makes changes and does the things we said he should have done, we can then praise him for making the adjustments and doing a better job. Chris Ash, the last 5 games, has been outstanding as Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. It doesn't change the fact that the first 3 games were absolute horse poo. I don't know an apology for calling out crap when I see crap. But what the mark of a good coach is that you change, you adjust, you get better. So I will praise him for making adjustments and now building a defense that looks like, so far, like it can play championship football. That's what it looks like. Next week's going to be a great test because that Pitt offense is hot. And if he can keep holding them in check, then I'm going to be fired up and say, okay, let's roll. Let's see what we can do against some of the better teams in the schedule. But I don't know an apology for calling out a poor performance. It's like if a quarterback throws 5 picks and I'm like, he was terrible tonight, he cost him a game. And then the next week he throws for 500 yards. I don't have to apologize for his 5 interceptions from the week before. It means he played better. And the way we are as analysts is when you do a good job, we will praise you. When you don't do a good job, we will criticize you. And he deserved every ounce of criticism he got the first 3 games of the season. He deserves every ounce of praise that he's getting the last 5 games of the season so far. But doing one doesn't negate the other, because if he would have done the other, we're talking about whether or not Notre Dame's the 2 or the 3 seed. Not are they going to host or not. So please don't do that. Like, let's praise the great job he's done. And if you're still, looking to criticize him, that's a you thing. We've seen enough strung together performances to say they're cooking on the defensive side of the ball now, right? But that doesn't negate what we saw the first 3 games of the season. It doesn't. So I saw a couple people posting that. I'm like, nah, we're not doing that.
From Packer Fan Total Access, thank you for the super chat. Clayton here. Great win, fellas. Thank you guys for keeping this channel going through that rough 0-2 start. Go Irish.
Always. We're here, win, lose, or draw. Well, actually, we're never here for draw because there aren't any draws anymore. But we're win or lose, we're here, baby.
From ND Lou 22, thank you for the super chat. I don't know what it takes to get a running back a Heisman in this era, but that touchdown from Love should turn some heads.
But you need some highlights. You need some highlights. You need Heisman moments, quote unquote, right? And I think that, the 94-yard run is definitely a Heisman moment. I think that one was a Heisman moment. He's got Heisman moments. You know what I mean? So, but he's going to have to keep doing it if he wants to get his name in the conversations. Because right now it's all freaking quarterbacks.
Yeah. So you have 121 yards of offense today too in 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's good. He'll go over 1,000 yards next week. He's just under 1,000 right now.
The Mendoza kid had one heck of a final drive. People are gonna. That's
it's funny. I saw some people saying, like, I saw college football nerds who do good work. Those guys do a good job, but they're like, anyone saying this is a Heisman moment didn't watch him the first 3.5 quarters. I'm like, but isn't that part of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, isn't that part of a great performance? Like, even when I'm not playing well, when the game's on the line, I step up and make plays. To me, that's absolutely a great performance. Like, was Tom Brady's performance against the Falcons in the Super Bowl not great because he sucked in the first half? Like, you don't take away what he did at the end because he wasn't. To me, that actually adds to it. He didn't have his A game against Penn State, but when the game was on the line, he threw some absolute dimes.
Yeah, absolute dimes.
And what a
that
play by Omar Cooper Jr., by the
Yeah,
way.
that last
night.
drive. That last drive was, I mean, a thing of beauty. It was
Yeah.
that was 2-minute drill beauty right there. I mean, all
And
around.
just dumb by the defensive coordinator, by the way, at Penn State. That's why I don't know why coaches do that, man. You've been doing something all game that's been working.
Yeah.
And then you go away from it because there's less time on the clock, man. Just
To have a team 2nd and 17 and give up that throw down the middle of the field is like
no rerouting whatsoever. Just clean
None.
release. Just so bad. If Jeremiah Love wants to have a shot at the Heisman, he needs a big game next week. Next week's going to be his last chance for the last 2 games can be stat padding games, but the last Heisman moment opportunity for him is going to be next week against a top 25 Pitt team on the road. That's going to be his last chance to really have that impact. So,
from Chris Federico. Appreciate you, Chris. Not much to say. Great game plan on both sides. Go Irish, beat Pitt. Word.
Yeah. So, amen, brother. Amen.
Kevin Carter with the super chat. Thanks, Kev. All you need is more love. Great to see the youngsters getting some snaps, but most importantly, Schmidt was 7-7, baby.
Yes. I was really happy that they gave the young receivers a couple series with CJ. I thought that was really smart. And then letting Kenny get a series with the first team offensive line, I thought was really smart as well.
Carr tried to take a deep shot to Cam Williams today, who had a step on the corner. He was
had a few steps on that guy.
There's a couple things about that play. Number one, he had him beat, and CJ was getting ready to throw it to him. Number two, CJ has an incredibly strong arm because he was getting hit and still put the ball like 35 or 40 yards downfield. Like, that was impressive all by itself. Like, when he let it go, I was like, oh my God, that might be a touchdown. I mean, it just hung up in the air a little long, obviously, and it drew the pass interference, which was great. But holy cow, he got a lot on that ball. Like, that doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have some serious arm strength to be getting hit, going backwards, and being able to put that ball up the way that he did. The kid's just special, man. He's just special.
Yep. Thanks again for the super chat, Kevin. We appreciate you, man.
Super chat from Josh Phillips. Thank you, Josh. Great get right game for the offense. 1 3 and out.
Yeah.
On 6 straight drives, man.
If CJ makes the proper read on that 1 3 and out and hits Faison, that's a 20-something yard gain at least. I'm not banging on it because the kid made so many other good decisions. I'm just pointing out on that particular play, he didn't make the right read.
ICURN with Irish Luck. Thank you for the super chat. I love the balanced way Denbrock called this game. I thought it was the best game called. Upon further review will be fun. Need to be on the board.
Yes, you do.
You
do. I thought he did a good job of not completely abandoning the run, but not feeling like he needed to force the issue arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Chris Galloway, a.k.a. Black Irish 864, is happy. Thank you for the super chat, Chris. Appreciate you. I think most people are. Not everybody, apparently, but most people are.
Yeah. Oh, can't help everybody.
That's right.
From Go Irish. Thank you for the super chat. Pitt game bound with Steelers fans who love the bus. Otherwise, they don't care about Notre Dame. How does Four's career to date compare to Bettis's college career?
Well, let's see how he finishes it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is Jerome had some big games down the stretch in his career, and Jeremiah's got a chance to do that. But look, if he finishes the year the way that we think he's going to finish the year, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. He just needs to keep finishing. But what he's done the last 2 years is special. And it's and how his game, Vince, has evolved. You know how he's added different parts of his game every year. Like this year, he's become such a good pass blocker. You know, it's he doesn't have that ego of like a lot of guys like him normally. Look, you need me to go lead block for CJ? I'll lead block for CJ and celebrate just as much on that as I will if I scored a touchdown. You know, that's infectious with your team.
Super chat from Rick. Thank you, Rick. Irish beat up Navy. Go Irish. You beat me up for donating the wrong way last time, so I stopped. But I'm so pumped. Irish and the Aggies are rocking, hoping for a rematch. Go Irish. Gig 'em Aggies.
Beat the heck out of South Carolina.
Thanks. I was like, I don't even know what that stands for. I was like, belt to – nope, that ain't it. All right.
Tahuti's outhouse? I'm not quite sure. Beat the heck out of South Carolina. Thank you for the super chat, Rick. I appreciate you.
From A. Clayton 47, appreciate the super chat. If the defensive line can improve on a 4-man pressure and the offensive line can start moving some people in the run game consistently, I'll be more excited about the postseason. Pitt is the game that can help my sanity. We'll be at Pitt.
I actually think the 4-man pressure has been pretty outstanding the last several games.
Yeah, I have no issues with
look, the reason that the 4-man pressure struggled early in the year, and Sean, you and I talked a lot about this, personally, and then we talked about in the shows, was when you are playing off coverage, I don't give a crap who you have playing on the defensive line. You could have Lawrence Taylor on one side and Reggie White on the other side, and guess what? You're not going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback because the ball, unless they run 3 240s, the ball's getting out too quick. I pointed out a play against Purdue where Bubakar had just a sick spin move, just came off the edge, spun inside, literally untouched, and he didn't get within 4 yards of the quarterback because the ball got out so quick. They started being more aggressive with their coverages, and miraculously the defensive line starts getting pressure on the quarterback. So I'm actually happy with the 4-man pressures. When they need them, they've been good at them when the coverage matches it. So I'm not happy by that. Now, the part I agree with A. Clayton is the O-line being more consistent running the football is going to be something we need to see. And, like Joe Wadding's going to have to play better than he did today and yesterday and last week, but he's learning. He's learning.
I think they need their best game this week.
Oh, yeah.
Going up against those linebackers, a team that's pretty good stuffing the run. But the funny thing is, I think CJ is going to be the best quarterback they faced all year. That's the key.
Yeah.
He's the best quarterback they faced all year. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Looking forward to it.
Super chat from Patrick James. Thank you, Patrick. When was the last time Notre Dame had 0 penalties in a game?
Man, let's see. Is it in the packet?
Maybe, yeah. I just went back and looked on the CFB stats site, and I went back to all the way 2016, and I didn't see anything. So let me go find the notes here real quick. I'll download those and look. Navy full book, let's see, final recap, season, post game notes. Here we go. So let's see. Say anything about penalties. Notables. Let me see if there's anything penalty related. Notre Dame was not whistled for penalty in tonight's game, matching the school record and marking the first time the Irish played a game without a penalty since a 1997 victory at number 11 LSU. So that was my freshman year of college. That's a long time. Good call on the stat packet on the package, Sean.
I figured they had sent it by now.
It's quite a long time. It's quite a long time.
Just a little bit.
And the impressive thing is, we talked about this during the week. They were one of the most penalized teams in college football coming into the game. So, did Navy get called? They got called for like a couple. They had a roughing the passer, a couple
3
starts.
Yeah, they had. Yep.
3 or 4.
That illegal shift on a play.
Yep.
So yeah, they had a few. Salty with the super chat. Thank you, Salty, very,
Woo!
very, very much. I love this one from Patrick James, fellas. I cannot stop smiling. Thank you for the super chat, Patrick. Yeah, I'm fired up about how this game went, fellas. I really am. I'm pumped.
Super chat from Tyler Evans. Thank you, Tyler. Who's ready for Tuesday night's playoff rankings? Because I have no idea what will happen. And do you believe Navy's the best group of 6 team?
No, I don't think they're the best of those. I think South Florida's better. I think Memphis is probably better. North Texas has a better record and beat Navy last week. So I think you could put San Diego State in that conversation. I don't think Navy needed to beat North Texas last week to have a conversation to earn that moniker, and I don't. It's a good Navy team. It's not as good as last year's Navy team, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't think they're in the conversation. You got anybody will push back on that?
No, Memphis has faded a little bit, and their coach has taken another job pretty much. So,
well, they're all beating each other up. Memphis beats South Florida, then Tulane beats Memphis, then Tulane gets beat by UTSA. UTSA gets smacked by who crushed UTSA the other night? South Florida just destroyed UTSA the other night. So like they're kind of beating each other up.
Yeah, Navy and South Florida play this week, right?
Yeah.
That's
they
got
to play South Florida and Memphis still. Yeah.
And I don't know how much, he said he can't wait for the rankings and everything. Like there's going to be movement behind Notre Dame. I don't know how much movement is going to happen in front of
They'll
Notre
move
Dame.
up at least one spot. They'll move ahead of BYU.
I agree. But you know what I mean? But like there's not going to be a whole lot of shakeup up there. I think there's going to be more shakeup behind, which ultimately affects them up, the top 10. But I don't, you know what I mean? Like, there were some close calls this weekend, but I don't think it's enough to really change a whole lot.
There's 2 things that I think could change in front of them besides just BYU losing. And that is, I could see, again, I don't know that I'd do it, but I could see A&M flipping Indiana, passing Indiana. Because Indiana had the ugly, it was a great win, but like it was an ugly win, and everybody has those ugly wins. It's just that A&M had theirs a month and a half ago when they played a bad Auburn team and won 16-10. But like, it's the recency bias. Indiana's had theirs today. And then Texas A&M went on the road and dominated the number 22 team in the country. So I could see that. And then the other thing I could see is I could see potentially Texas Tech jumping in front of Ole Miss, maybe. Don't think it'll but I could see that because that was a very impressive win. And they were a bad red zone day away from winning that game by about 14 more points. Like they had to settle for a lot of field goals in this game. They dominated BYU really from start to finish. I could see that. Yeah. But Notre Dame will move up to 9. That's what I anticipate happening. Because the committee clearly wasn't very high on BYU overall resume other than being undefeated. That's why they had them 7th, despite the fact they were undefeated. So my question for them is how far do they fall? Do they fall behind Texas? Do they fall behind Oklahoma? Do they fall behind Utah? I don't think they can do that because they beat Utah, right? So they got to at least be at 12th. I would keep them ahead of Oklahoma and Texas, to be honest with you, or at least out of Oklahoma. Yeah, but hey, thing is, Tyler, we will be live Tuesday night, though, to talk about it all.
Another super chat from Tyler Evans. Here is the tissue fund for Louisville fans.
I love that. They were so mouthy this week. I'm like, I kind of felt like when they started talking, I almost felt like that scene, from Tombstone. Oh, I'm sorry, Louisville. I forgot you were there. You may go now. You know what I mean? Like, who are you talking? Like, what?
My timeline didn't have a lot of Louisville fans on it. Mine was, for whatever reason, littered with BYU fans.
BYU, Oklahoma, and Louisville fans this week were losing their minds.
And look, if Louisville or Oklahoma wants to have beef, I understand that because Notre Dame is ranked ahead of them. I've never seen a team ranked ahead of another team and be so upset about a team ranked below them. That'd be like if Notre Dame fans were like, why in the heck is Virginia 14th? Like, that's weird to me.
No one was upset about Utah being 13. I'm like, Notre Dame's a team you're worried about? It was wild, man. It was
Oh.
wild. It was fun. And then to watch them all lose, like literally all three. Oklahoma didn't play, but they're going to lose next week. But to see BYU get smacked, to see Virginia get beat at home by Wake Forest, unfortunately, it looks like Chandler Morris might be out. That injury did not look good. That did not look good, which stinks. But hey, you know what though? It's a tough loss. But man, I don't care what about the loss today. I can't say enough about the job that Tony Elliott's done with that football team this year.
Yeah.
He's done a heck
But
of
I
a
think,
job.
that's November, right, in college football, right?
Yeah.
Indiana had a stinker today. But they won it.
That's
Notre
right.
Dame had a stinker last week, but they won it.
Yep.
Right? The teams that win the stinkers, they're not good. They're not good enough. They're just not those really good teams. But November just finds a way to bring out the worst and the best of teams in contention. Like it's almost like a ground ball.
Yeah. It's a separation time, Sean. You find out who you are.
Yeah.
You find out who you are.
Yeah.
From Fighting Irish 595, thank you for the super chat. Passing game came through several times in short yardage on the perimeter. Run game still seems questionable in those situations.
Well, in this game, partly because of just how loaded the box was. I mean, the reason the perimeter pass worked so well is because of how crowded it was on the inside. So I mean, look, they pounded in two touchdown runs inside the 5.
Yeah.
That's a positive.
And
it took them 2 carries on both times, right? First and second down run. They scored on the second down both times, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think Notre Dame went 4 or 5 in the red zone, and weren't they taking knees in the red zone to end the game?
Yeah, they didn't get stopped in the red zone by Navy.
There you go.
Yeah. They shouldn't count that, by the way, as a red zone trip. Just like they count like taking a knee as a team stat, not a stat for the guy that took a knee. They shouldn't. When you take a knee at the end of a game, they shouldn't count that against your red zone numbers. I'm sorry.
Super chat from Ethan Kaufman. Thank you, Ethan. How do you think a rematch with Texas A&M would play out today with both teams at full strength?
Ethan, I appreciate you very, very much, man. I'll say this, guys. I think it'd be a great game. I think Texas A&M's a really good football team. I think Notre Dame would not get gashed through the air the same way they did. I think that it would be a very good football game. I like Notre Dame in that game. I mean, Notre Dame played terrible on defense and still almost won that game. I think Notre Dame's a better team as far as just overall who I think is a better team. But this is a heck of an A&M football team, guys. They're not lucking their way into these wins. Like they're earning their wins. That's a good football team. In back-to-back weeks, they went on the road and smacked LSU and smacked Missouri on the road. Now, I get it. No starting quarterback, whatever. But, hey, Missouri's defense wasn't missing their starting quarterback. Trev, that's a good defense, and they worked that defense today.
Yeah, they did.
So that's a good football team. Mike Elko's doing a heck of a job with that football team. Do I think Notre Dame could beat them? Guys, I think Notre Dame could beat anybody if they're on their game. Yeah. Especially in the playoffs, if you get Jaden Greathouse and Billy Schrauff back. That's why, Vince, you said you saw Greathouse is going through warm-ups. So there's warm-ups, there's pregame, and then there's the game, right?
Right.
So,
they were both Christian Gray and Greathouse were both going through like the pregame warm-ups where they're in shorts and t-shirts and stuff. And then when they all came out in full uniform, they just had jerseys on and pants, and sweatshirts and stuff like that. So they were not dressed for the game, but they were both out there for pregame stuff and running through. Like they look good to me. Now, obviously not good enough to play. And, this was a unique game as well. Right, guys? So, this is one that's okay. Like, if they're healthy and ready to roll, I want them out there for Pitt. You know what I mean? But I don't necessarily need them out there for Navy. So it's precautionary in my personal opinion based on the way they were moving around, but we'll see. I was 9 floors up too.
That was it. That's it, boys.
Oh, if they have I would love to have Jagasaw and Schrauff back for A&M. That's all. That's my fair. One caveat. If I can have those two dudes back for that offensive line to go up against Their
I
defensive
want
line,
Great
which,
House
by the
back
way,
too, fellas.
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Sean? By the way, what?
No, I'm just saying, by the way, they still, shredded that defensive line, even though they gave up a bunch of tackles for loss. They put up points and ran the ball very well against Texas A&M. So, which a lot of people have actually ran the ball against Texas A&M pretty decently.
Mm-hmm.
But they love to get after you with tackles for losses and turn it over and get it back to their offense and make you play from behind. So they have a formula that's it's been pretty good to them. It's been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, folks, that's going to – go ahead.
Any final takeaways? Anybody have any parting shots they would like to leave before we get out of here? Vince, I know you didn't get a chance to talk about the offense at all. Trev, anything else you want to add before we get up out of here?
Final shots. Penn State hasn't beaten a Power 4 opponent since December 21st of 2024.
I didn't mean take a shot.
I didn't know if you meant
somebody.
like shots in general or if you just meant like shots at the game. But I had that loaded in the clip since we started this show, brother.
Yo, hey,
this is why I like that dude, man.
I actually wanted them to pull it off so I could tweet something about Squidward. I was like, dude, this cat Terry Smith Terry Smith got the biggest win by a Penn State head coach as an interim. I was ready to go at James Franklin. I was ready to rip.
Imagine that a week after, basically the first game out, second game out after he gets let go, they get the biggest win in a decade.
To steal a quote that I saw from some other podcaster a couple weeks ago, it'd be their biggest win since Joe Paterno was looking the other way. So that would have to.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't come up with that one. I saw a guy the other week. He said Penn State hasn't been ranked number 1 since Joe Paterno was looking the other way. Good Lord. I got to figure out a way to use that one. That was good.
Well, gentlemen.
But interesting week of college football, though. I'm looking forward to talking about that. Trevor and I will talk about that here on Tuesday. But, yeah, it was an interesting week of college football. 7 straight wins for ND.
Yes, sir. Yes,
big one
sir.
next week.
Sure will be. Well, folks, that is going to do it for us here today on the Irish Breakdown postgame show brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Notre Dame took down the Navy Midshipmen 49-.
I also forgot to add, I saw this on Twitter, UConn has more ACC wins the last 2 years than Florida State.
Yikes.
Wow.
They beat Duke today.
The irony of the two teams that wanted to boat on the ACC are absolutely trash this year.
And why can't you fire Duke if you're Florida State? Because you spent all that money on lawyers trying to get out of the ACC, Florida State and Clemson.
Who was it that beat Duke?
UConn.
Oh, okay. So they've got more.
Jim Moore is doing a tremendous job at UConn, by the way, fellas. And they were a Steve Angeli late drive away from having a win over Syracuse early in the year also.
Yeah.
So he's doing a heck of a job there. So
I mean, he's got more Power 4 wins than Penn State.
Facts. I mean, he'd be second place in the ACC right now? So third place in the ACC right now?
Woof.
So, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm sorry. I've always liked the ACC, but I used to like the ACC as a football conference. There's some schools, but I grew up. You loved to watch North Carolina. They always had sweet uniforms and all that. But the last 5-6 years, just how mouthy their coaches get about crying about Notre Dame and and just some of the crybaby stuff. Like Rhett Lashley whining about Notre Dame. Dude, you lost to Wake Forest. You need to sit down and shut your pie hole. You know what I mean? Go watch how you played against Penn State last year, then watch how Notre Dame played against Penn State, and just pipe down there, fella. Okay, because you had to basically you had to join the ACC for free before they would take you. So you guys go ahead and sit down in the back there at old SMU, and just man, they're so mouthy. It's you guys are the worst Power 4 league, and it's not even close. So, and if it wasn't for Clemson's great run, we'd be a decade into you being terrible.
Yeah.
So sit down and shut up and pray that you can convince UConn to join your league. So your basketball team league and your football league might be good, So at least the Big 12 is really good in football. I mean, basketball. The ACC's not even great at basketball anymore. So yeah, I just thought that was flipping hilarious. But yeah, Jim Moore, and I'm surprised his name's not getting brought up for more of these coaching jobs because he's a guy that's had some success. He had 2 10-win seasons and a 9-win season at UCLA. You know, coached in the NFL, and you know he had a 9-win season at UConn last year, and they're 7-3 this year. You know, and they've got games against Air Force and Florida Atlantic coming up. There's a chance they go 9-3 again. So he's doing a heck of a job. Rather take him to Brian Kelly. Just saying. So that's my final parting shots. Good stuff.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that will do it for the Irish Breakdown post-game show brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. On your way out of here, be sure to hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. But as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. So for Sean Davis, for Vince D'Addario, for Brian Driscoll, I'm Trevor Trowbridge. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.